Welcome to episode 53 of TechVT. I'm, as always, your host, Brody Robertson, and today, I don't know how to really introduce you. You do just random Linuxy videos, you do mainly, like, trough and LaTeX stuff, it seems to be. I just realized I'm on the wrong scene. Anyway, welcome to the show, Gavin.
Alright, yeah, I don't really know how to describe what I do either, honestly. I was
I'll
thinking about
bring your
that
channel
earlier.
up, actually. That'll make it easier.
I don't know if that'll help too much.
Well, your latest video
Like,
was my girlfriend slow runs Vim Tutor. I watched like 3
yeah.
minutes of that and it was very painful.
Yeah, honestly, that's all I found out pretty quickly that that's all it takes to bump up your click-through levels, is just put a girl in your thumbnail
Mhm.
and, uh, and there you go, clicks on clicks on clicks.
Yeah, your channel's actually doing like surprisingly well for a channel with what 900 was 947 subs right now. You actually get like a lot of views on your content.
Yeah, I get a decent amount of views per video, I just don't put out enough videos.
I don't know, maybe
And
that's
then
the
also,
strategy. Maybe I should upload less.
the niche content also gets like
Mhm.
barely any views. Like occasionally I'll get like some trough or graph videos that do like decent, but most of them get like 300 views.
Well, yeah, most of the people who are looking for trough content are probably people who know way more trough than you do.
Yeah, exactly. Honestly, most people looking for it are like more confused on what they're looking for.
Oh
Like a
yeah.
lot of people are like, how does this compare to Markdown? I'm like, well,
Mm.
they're not really the same thing.
But you've
Like
also
it's
done a
kind
bit
of
of
like, yeah.
stuff on some other things as well, like um you've done some like general like program stuff, like here's a thing on image magic, here's a thing on SFeed. But yeah, it seems like your main stuff is the LaTeX and uh trough and groff stuff. I don't care about the difference. I know Hum comments on your content as well. And I know
Yeah.
if the second I say this, he's gonna be here, even though he doesn't watch the podcast.
I was like just thinking that I was like, because like that's like the one thing that sucks about making content about this is that like people either like have no idea anything about it, or
Mhm.
like they're like who just like, well, any issue, any mistake you make, he will call you out on it. That's
Yep.
also partly why it takes so long to upload any content.
For
I'm
context, for
always like,
people who
gotta
don't
fact
hang,
check everything.
yeah, for context, people who don't hang out in my Discord, Hum is one of my mods, and he is basically just imagine the most stereotypical Linux user who will correct you on everything. C is the only decent language that exists. Actually, I think no Go. He likes Go as well, which is I don't know why. Um, but if you like call things by the slightly wrong term, even though it really doesn't matter, he'll be on your case about it. Fun
Yeah.
guy, very fun guy.
It's yeah. At least it's usually not too bad. It's better than like, I don't know, I feel like especially in like this sort of a community, it's like filled with like, not to criticize the community because that's literally who's watching this video, but, I feel like a lot of people are, like, very close-minded about things, and, like, you'll make a video that mentions, like, I don't know, one thing that everybody loves to hate on is, like, Rust. Like, you'll mention, like, Rust in a video,
Mhm.
and just bam, everybody's coming at you with, like, not hot takes on Rust, but they're all the same take. They're
Yeah,
all
yeah,
one
yeah.
guy's take, and everyone's saying the same thing.
Well, Rust is
Uh,
it's a very weird one because there's this group of people who absolutely adore Rust and think that things should just be rewritten in Rust for no reason whatsoever. I think if you look up rewrite it in Rust, you'll find like big compilations of people just creating issues on GitHub being like, hey, this program would be better if it was rewritten in Rust. If you want a performance increase, rewrite it in Rust. And the devs are like,
yeah.
no, not happening. But then you have the other camp of people who just absolutely anything that's written in Rust, even if it's not like a rewrite of an application, it's just someone happens to like the language. Nope, not allowed. Rust is a bad language. You should be using whatever. Insert my favorite language here.
Yeah, I also like the thing that I always find funny is that like a lot of the people that have these like this one take on like languages like Rust or on Python or something like that are never programmers, almost always. They're just guys who like want to criticize something because
Mhm.
especially like in this sort of in like our sort of community, like a lot of people are like against change. There's like two ways to approach change. There's like the people who see change and sorry, my camera's like zooming in and out.
Oh yeah,
There's
just
people
do
who
it.
like Yeah, there's people who like the autofocus is terrible. Uh, there's people who like see change and then are just like immediately against it
Mhm.
in the community because they're like, it's something new. I don't like it. Which like some will argue that's not what happens, but it kind of is. And then there's the other side of people who like don't know too much about the like the older tools, but something
Mhm.
new is like more exciting, and then they get into it, and then they learn it, and then they promote it as the best thing ever. And then there's the people that are like most people are that don't say anything about it are like just somewhere out there in the middle,
Mhm.
don't care about it, think it's an okay language or something like that. But then the other half, it's like it's either people who are new to it and think it's a cool new thing and they want to learn it, and then there's the other half, which is funny because that's exactly how to make two people clash.
Mm. Well, you're never gonna like please all people. So I've honestly just stopped caring at this point. I'll just say like as long as it's not something horrendously dumb, like Lunduk when he said that privacy on the internet is a bad thing. If it's not a really dumb take like that, I genuinely don't care.
Yeah,
That
but yeah, it's
I love
yeah.
that he killed his channel over doing that.
Yeah. Well, I guess now he's just like on library, or at least he's like saying that he's on library every single day on YouTube.
I think all he
uh,
does, pretty much all he uses the YouTube channel for now is funneling people over to library, which that's fair. That's fair. I can accept that.
yeah,
Um, I do like library. It's a really good
yeah,
platform.
yeah, and like it's especially nice for like at least a channel like mine that like obviously can't get monetized yet, but
Mhm.
like I can still at least make some money off of it. Especially when like I feel like you put in a lot of time into videos, and if you're not like uploading at a regular pace, it's super hard to like get view time,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
like one of the really getting the subscribers is like probably the easiest part of getting monetized. The hardest part is like actually getting people to watch enough of
Mm.
your content,
Yeah, I kind of got
or at
lucky
least
with
like
my
based on what
channel.
I've experienced. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'll say it, I got really lucky with my channel because when I got that bump from Luke, that also basically bumped me up to the view time as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's like that's pretty nice. But I feel like at the same time, it's like you also can't you fit the perfect niche of what people wanted at the time, which is perfect.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Well, yeah, it's still even right now. There's not really that many people just doing just random looks at software. I think the only person I can really think of doing it well is DT. But DT also does a lot of
yeah,
the more ranty stuff as well. Um,
yeah,
but people sort of wanted what Luke was doing in the past, and then he doesn't want to do that because he hates doing the Linux videos.
yeah, yeah.
I
No,
don't know.
for sure. I feel like it works out well.
Mm.
It's a win-win situation.
Yeah,
And like also, it's like now all he has to do is just do reactions.
I've sort of come into my own
Just
with my
kidding.
content now,
Kind of.
making my own sort of style rather than just copying what other people have done. But the early stuff on my channel was definitely like that for sure.
No, for sure. I was like pretty much the same sort of situation. Like when I first started making content, like the
Hmm.
only reason I made a channel was because like I like for some reason I just like saw, especially I like like kind of knew about Groff
Hmm.
before from I can't remember what it was. It was just like some random post on Reddit, I think, or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And then Luke Smith did his video on it. I was like, oh, that's sweet. And then I needed to rewrite my resume, and I was like, oh,
Ah,
why not just write it in this?
oh god.
And then I went down a rabbit hole of spending way too much time learning about this stuff, and I was
Hmm.
like, "You know what? I should probably show this to someone else."
Hmm.
And then, Brian Jenks, who you've had on the podcast, like a few times, he was
Yeah,
li
yeah.
I was, like, telling him, like, "Oh, you should look into this." He was like, "You could just make a video on it yourself too if you wanted." And I
Hmm.
was like, "Oh, yeah, I guess I could." Uh, and then after that, I was like, "I don't know what to do now." Like, in
Hmm.
my first video, I, like, covered, like, a bunch of stuff. It's a terrible video now, even though it's, like, one of my most popular ones, but,
Yeah, that's
because
always
I
a
just
sad thing when that happens.
yeah,
Um,
because I covered so much, but I, like, had, like, no cuts in it. It's like a half-hour long video, and it could have been,
I'm
like,
just
probably
going to give
15
you guys
minutes.
a quick tutorial
oh,
But,
on
also the audio quality
Gruff.
is
your
terrible.
your presentations also are yeah. This
Yeah.
is
Also
Groff.
also it was
I'm
pretty
going to
jank.
tell you about Groff today.
Yeah. I also, like I had, like, such a silly way of looking at it. I was like, "Oh, I also just, like, asked, "Does anyone want this?" And a bunch of people were like, I posted on Reddit, like, "Does somebody want a series on this?" And people were like, "Sure." And I was like, "All right, sure." There's probably, like, 200 people that wanna see this, but
Mhm.
might as well make it. Uh, and then I was like, "I don't know what to do now," and I pretty much just did, like, well, not Luke Smith like content, but,
Mhm.
like, my thumbnails were, like, pretty like, some of them were, like, pretty Luke Smith like.
I
Like,
I
there's
know. I
one that I
think
had that was,
I
like,
think
one for one.
Brian did way worse than you did. You still had like a
Yeah.
slightly different thing going on, but Brian's early stuff was just Luke's thumbnails basically.
Yeah. No, it's always like, I feel like it's like just super tempting. Like there's also like, no offense to mental overflow, but like his thumbnails are pretty much still that almost. Which is like, I feel
Oh,
like if it like works,
you
it
mean
works.
Mental
But I feel
Outlaw?
like oh my God, I do this literally every
Mental
live stream
Overflow.
because people always ask me like, "What's your view on mental outlaw?" And I'm like, mental overflow," because I think of Stack Overflow for some reason. I don't know
Yep,
why.
yep, yep.
It's just keyed into my mind every time I want to look something up.
Mhm.
Mental overflow. But yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh, I forgot. But yeah, when I first started, I pretty much just like went with whatever
Mhm.
it seemed would work. And then eventually I was like, honestly, the thumbnails that I made, like I feel like were like some of them were like super generic.
Mhm.
And then I remember like I saw like a bunch of things saying like putting your faces on thumbnails helps. And
Yeah,
I did it on like
I heard
I
that
can't
as
remember
well.
my
I don't know
first
if that
video.
actually does it, but that's what everyone does now, so
Yeah. I had one video that like wasn't getting a lot of clicks and just like threw my face onto the thumbnail and it
Mhm.
just like immediately doubled. I was like, oh man. Which like to be fair, like doubling views on like a video that's like got 200 people watching it is pretty pretty minimal. It
Oh,
doesn't take much effort.
well, more than, what is this thing? 1 is more than 0, that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a Gary V quote because Gary V is the
Yeah.
king of the entrepreneurs on YouTube. If you look up to an entrepreneur, then the default answer is Gary V.
Yeah.
I've never watched
I
a
was like
single
actually
thing that he's ever done, but that's what
yeah,
people
me
say.
neither. I've like thought a bunch about like making content that isn't like super Linux related that I
Mhm.
was just like thinking of like making like almost like spoofs of like things like that. Cause I feel like especially like the 10 times 10x programmer and
Mhm.
stuff like that. And I was just like thinking of like, I don't know if you've ever seen these, but you see them like all the time, like short like videos of like a day in the life. And it's like, I woke
Yeah.
up at 4 a.m. I went to the gym for 5 hours. I did 2 hours of work, ate lunch, like went back to the gym, like these like unbelievably
Mhm.
unreasonable lifestyles. And they're like, I only work a 2 hour day. I could show you right now how you guys can drop out of high school and just start
Yeah.
making money.
Yeah,
Sign up
I've
for my
definitely
online
seen some
course.
of those.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've like thought of a bunch about that, but I feel like there's probably somebody that's done those before.
I I'll see if I can find it. There's a clip from Lewis Spears, who's an Aussie comedian who basically just ragged on the nonsense. I wake up at 4 a.m. nonsense. Oh, here we go. Found it. Okay, cool. No,
You know those
don't play it. No, I'm gonna send you the link, and then we're gonna play it.
All right.
Do I have my wait? Where's my Discord window? Oh, it's behind the. Wait, how do I do this? Okay, well, camera's broke. That's fine. Whatever.
Yeah, I just broke my camera too.
There we go.
All right.
Turn it down. Okay, I'm ready to play it whenever.
I'm playing it right now.
Oh, you're already playing it? Okay, well, I'll play it
All
for everyone else then.
You know those entrepreneur
ahead.
cunts that are like, man, every day I wake up at 4 a.m. and I start my day. I go for a run. I do this. I answer emails. I get some business calls done. I do this. I do that. I do that. None of these entrepreneur cunts tell us what they're doing at night. It's always the morning. Why are you going to wake up at 4 a.m. to be an entrepreneur? You don't. All these cunts that go on Joe Rogan's podcast, I wake up at 4 a.m. Do you know what they're doing at 7 p.m.? Fucking sleeping. They have the same amount of hours awake as the average person. They just wake up earlier. And they're pretending like they go to bed at midnight like you and me. They don't. They go to bed at 7 p.m. Loser,
Yeah.
millionaire, dork.
That's pretty much, it's funny that you
7
actually
p.m.,
said
I'm getting
4
a bit
a.m.
sleep.
as well.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
I follow. Oh, there's a Navy SEAL who every morning at 4. I think he wakes up at 4:30 in the morning. Every morning he posts a picture of his watch. I can't remember his name.
Are you talking about he like has like an Instagram page and he like and he like has like, I remember one video where the first one that I saw, he like tied his hands and feet together behind his back and he's like, I didn't make it into the Marines for years because I didn't know how to swim. And this is how I taught myself or
Yeah.
something like that.
I
And he
think
like
we might be
jumps
the
into the
same
water and he
person.
flops around. It's hilarious. I like don't use Instagram that much, but like I feel like I don't know about you, but like all my friends, like none of my friends are tech related people,
Mhm.
which is part of the reason that I made a YouTube channel because like who else are you going to talk to about it?
That's fair.
but random people on the internet.
Yeah, a lot of my
But,
friends, well, I don't talk to many of the people I went to like high school with. Most of the people I met were from university. So obviously going
Yeah.
to university, you're going to meet people who are also doing the same sort of degree you're doing. But
Totally.
I don't know, none of them use Linux though. Every one of them is either a Windows or a Mac user. And I don't know why.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Especially like in software engineering, because like, I think you said you're also in software
Yeah,
engineering.
yeah.
Yeah. I'm also in software engineering, or I guess you're done now, but I'm still in it. But yeah, you notice that like all the time. Everyone just uses Macs, honestly.
Mhm.
Uh, which is kind of like just weird at this point. Like I feel like it made sense before, but now it's like, why? Why are you guys doing this to yourselves?
Well, I get the Windows thing. That makes sense because all the software is made for Windows, but why Mac?
Yeah.
I don't get the Mac thing.
Like, especially because like a lot of them don't use like the command line or anything. Like I feel like one of the nicest things about like for a programmer using Mac is that you have like, a terminal that's pretty
Mhm.
Unix friendly. It's like it's technically like, it is like certified Unix, I'm pretty sure still.
Yeah.
So I guess there's that, but
Yeah,
yeah.
I with the well, Windows makes a bit more sense now as a developer. If you're really lazy and you don't want to swap, because you have WSL, because now you can do
Yeah.
basically anything you want through that. So there's far less of a reason people to actually switch over to Linux at this point.
For sure. I feel like, yeah, especially that's actually one of the things that got me into Linux. Well, like I like looked at it before because like
Mhm.
at the time I just got like, I don't know, I got like so frustrated with how many things I had like in my browser and like different things that were like cluttering up my screen. And I kind of just wanted to make things go faster. And
Mhm.
then eventually like you just run into like a limit of like you're not going to really move much faster when Explorer still takes freaking 15 minutes to open.
Mhm.
Uh, but then I was like, "Oh, maybe Linux seems like a pretty good option." And then I saw like WSL and I tried it out like back when it was like like in like beta or something like
Yeah.
that. And I was like, "This seems pretty neat. I should just switch." Which sadly wasn't that simple, but it was pretty close to that.
Well, I've said it before, but I switched to Arch in the middle of a semester and just had to basically work out how to do my assignments as quickly as possible. Not a good suggestion. I
Yeah.
wouldn't recommend it, but it's a good way to teach yourself very quickly. That's for sure.
Yeah. I like switched because I originally, so when I started university, I was in like just normal because like I don't know if your university did the same, but you start in like generic engineering
Mhm.
for your first year at my university, and
Okay.
then in second year you like declare like what engineering you're going into. And so I originally was in like electrical engineering, and I took way too long to like change my mind. I was like, I just don't like this. This is too much math. This is stuff that I'm like just don't want to do any of these jobs. And so I did like 2 years of that. So I did like
Mhm.
3 years of university and then threw away 2 of them. Um, which is pretty, don't recommend it.
Mhm.
Just finish your degree and then get a job in software, probably be better off. But anyway, so I switched to like software engineering and I like when I did that, I also decided like, you know what, maybe I'll just run Linux now because I don't have to worry about using stuff like Atmel Studio is like I don't know if you know what that is, but it's basically like Visual Studio, not Visual Studio Code, Visual Studio like the actual IDE, but
Mhm.
for like Atmel embedded systems, and we had to use
Right.
that in my university for electrical engineering. And I was like, well, I can't use Linux because of this, but then I was like, why not? And that's when I switched. But I also like I did like competitive sprint canoe, which is like super weird sport.
Ah,
Uh, you might want to pull up a picture because it's really
yeah,
hard
I'm
to
gonna do
explain.
that. I understood the words you said, but in a sentence they don't make sense.
Yeah, actually, I'll see if I can find a picture and I'll throw it to you, send it to you so you can pull it up. But basically, if you see any of the ones where people are kneeling, that's what I did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I found them.
Yeah, and
Okay. Yeah,
I
I've
basically
seen this
did.
before.
Yeah, it's in like the Olympics and everything, which
That's
is
what
pretty
came up
sick.
actually.
And yeah, and I basically I competed. I've basically done that since I was like 8.
Aha.
And I was like, I did like I was like, I want to toot my own horn. I was like pretty good at it. Like me and one of my friends like went to Junior Worlds for it, which was pretty sweet. So we got to go on a trip to Portugal and like compete for that sort of stuff. And then when I went to university, I was like, oh, I'm gonna keep doing this and
Mhm.
everything. Which is like pretty difficult, especially because like it's not popular. Like I would like in my part of Canada, it's pretty unpopular. But if you live in like Halifax or Nova Scotia, which is like the other side of Canada for me,
Mhm.
it's pretty popular there. Shout outs to like 0 of the people watching this that are there.
I have no idea
If there
where
are any,
anything
that'd
in
be kinda
Canada
crazy.
is. So I'll just point
Yeah.
at them. I can find Canada. That's about as far as I can get.
It's all the same. It's just like a different side of the coast. Don't worry. I don't
I know
expect
there's like
anyone
a
to
French
know that
Canada,
sort of
but
stuff.
that's about as far as I
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, French Canada is Quebec.
Hmm.
But anyways, so I did that sort of thing, and then when I was in university, I like kept going to. They have like a spring camp in Florida. It's pretty like I would go to the like training camp for U23s, which would be like the next thing up from juniors,
Mhm.
junior worlds. And basically, I would go to that training camp, and I basically like you could do courses, but honestly, doing a full engineering course load, like I don't know what it's like for your university, but it's like 5 to 6 courses, or I guess it's pretty. It is 6 courses,
Mhm.
6 to 7 courses at my university. So it's like I wanted to do a full course that I couldn't go to training camp. Like you can't be like training for like 3 times 2 hours a day, so like 6 hours a day,
Mhm.
plus like the training camp is like pretty. It's one of those things that like I don't know if you've ever like gone for like a run or something, and you're like just feel so exhausted that you just like you just can't move. Like that's pretty much what the training camp is kind of like. Like we'd
Mhm.
probably clock in like in a week. The best way to relate it is if you guys do running, or I think you said in like a podcast that you do like running sometimes. And if
I've
you
been
like
very lazy with
paddling,
working out, but I was for a
yeah,
while. I have these
paddling is like energy use. Oh, sorry, go
I have
ahead.
these periods of time. It's fine. You have a lot of energy, and it's hard to keep up with you.
Oh, sorry, I'm like a
There
fast talker.
I can I can tell. I have these periods where I get very very into running, and then I get lazy for a couple of months and stop doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, anyways, what I was gonna basically say was like running, the amount of energy you use running is the same as if you paddled the same sort of distance.
Hmm.
Like the muscles that get tired are different, but like the feeling of how tired you feel is pretty much the
Right,
same.
right.
And so like in a normal day, we'd clock in at least we'd probably clock in like almost 30 kilometers a day for 3 months straight, 5 days a week. And then on Saturdays, we'd usually do like just like a hard practice, like maybe like a 15K paddle all at once,
Right, right.
um, which is like pretty rough. It's like because I don't know if you can see the pictures, but kneeling like that for like 15K straight is pretty uncomfortable. Starts to hurt pretty bad.
I can imagine so.
But yeah, so like I used to do that. So it wasn't. So when I switched to Linux, that's when I did it. Anyways, that was so like I just basically like during the day when I was like not training, I was like,
Mhm.
dude, I don't want to move. Like a few times we'd be like, "Oh, do you guys want to go play football on the beach?" And we're like,
Mhm.
"Yeah, that sounds awesome." I think we go out on the beach and just be destroyed for the next 3 days because like we just get like it was so easy to get heat stroke when you're like training that
Yeah.
often and you're like out in direct sunlight. There's no trees covering you up, and so you're just like spending like 6 hours a day direct sunlight, like 30 degrees sometimes. So yeah, anyways, so I would basically just sit, have my computer on my lap, and I would
Mhm.
just like do Linuxy things, which was pretty sweet, and I learned like a bunch of stuff. But I'm pretty lucky to be in a situation like that.
Mhm.
Except now I'm like, now it takes me forever to graduate. Anyways, on a different topic, I was like trying not to make it too long, but I was like, man, it's just I just gotta explain it, get it over with, because I feel like I get asked about it like a lot
If you
for some
speak at
reason.
300 words per minute, nothing takes a while.
Yeah. Uh, yeah, for sure. I also just like drank way too much coffee before this,
Mhm.
as you can probably tell.
I'm not much of a coffee drinker. I I used to,
Yeah.
and then the second I stopped drinking coffee and gave myself like a couple of days break, I was like, wow, this is what it feels like to be calm. And then I just stopped drinking coffee most of the time. I still do occasionally have like iced coffees. Not sponsored
Oh
by
yeah.
Dare, but hey Dare, hit me up. I'll take payment in iced coffees. They're
That's
really
true.
bad for you. They're like, I don't
Yeah.
know how much sugar's in it. Let's find out. Uh, per 750 mils, there is 76 grams of sugar in it.
Oh damn.
So
That's
no, it's
kind of
not good for
crazy.
you. Um,
Yeah.
but going way back, you're asking about the way my degree was structured. So the way that we
Yeah.
do it at my
Okay.
university is we have basically, so engineering is its own thing, but your first year is just generic engineering, but software engineering is considered part of the software development side. So that's part of you have like think cybersecurity, software development, game design, a couple other things like that. And the first year is
Uh-huh.
just like generic programming. So you learn things like what up, what is object oriented programming? here is some basic introduction to how like programming works. Here's some introduction to how computers work, things like that. But yeah, I presume engineering works in a similar way, where first year it would be like electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, and all of the other engineering is just part of like the generic thing. And then after that, you sort of specialize in what you want to do.
Yeah,
or you could be a really weird person, have a useless degree, stick with the generic stream, and just pick electives the entire time. I want to do some electro engineering. I want to do some mechanical engineering. You leave and you know nothing about anything.
Yeah, sadly, that's not an option at my university, but
no, that's a good thing. It shouldn't be an option.
Yeah, we have like two different strains for like the software program. So we have like, I don't know if you said like that. Do you guys have that? Do you guys have like a software engineering and then a computer science program, or are they like?
No, we don't have computer science.
Specialize.
Okay.
Yeah, because we have computer science.
If you want to do computer science, you have to go to Adelaide University. But also the entry is way higher for that, and it's computer science. So what are you going to do with it? Just teach computer science?
Well, it's pretty much, honestly, at least at my university, we take like pretty similar courses. We just like, the engineers just like take more courses and get less electives.
Okay. Yeah, no, computer science here is very much theoretical, and then software engineering is you're actually, developing software.
Yeah, most of the like stuff, I guess like the idea, we pretty much do like a very similar thing, except both do the same thing. Just the software engineering stuff does like signals and systems sort of stuff, like like electrical engineering sort of courses. I don't know if you had to take those.
No, I didn't have to do that. I did one course on C, and that's as close as I got to engineering.
Yeah, like the first language I had to learn was C, and then my next language was C++. And then I like, because like if I had gone like the software route when I should have, I wouldn't have done C++. I would have learned Java. And so then in my the struggle of Java as an engineer, I feel like every university is just like, oh yeah, learn Java. You'll definitely use it in the future for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why. Basically, the only place you'll use Java is if you go work some really boring corporate job.
Yeah,
like, it's maintain this 30-year-old system that we have no idea how it works, but just keep adding stuff to it because the client wants new features.
Yeah, exactly. That's like kind of like, that's the worst. But yeah, so I just had to struggle to learn that during like my algorithms courses because that's what they used. But
yeah, we did our algorithms course in... Actually, no, we did our algorithm course in Java, but our introduction programming class was in Python.
Oh, actually, that's a new thing at my university too. They don't use C for it anymore. Now it's a Python course. Kind of jealous, honestly. That would have been so chill.
Oh yeah.
Like learning to I had never programmed before, and I was like, oh, I guess I'll start with this thing, which I guess is like chill, but
yeah, we had a couple people in that class who already knew Python, and even if you didn't know Python, it was basic programming stuff. Like, how do you use if statements? How do you use case statements? Things like that. I think the final assignment, I don't know, some like basic calculator or something like that. If you knew how if statements work, you could do it pretty easily, because they didn't want anything like dealing with reverse Polish notation or anything like that. They wanted it very basic. Because at least reverse Polish notation would be difficult, because then you have to work how to like structure it as a tree. But that'd be a bit too complex for first semester students, I guess.
Yeah, I remember like the last thing that we had to learn about was like linked. We had to learn how to do like linked lists with like structs. I don't know how much C you've done, but that's like pretty like kind of basic. But like honestly, when I was like learning it, I was like, this is the most complex thing I've ever seen. I have no idea how this works. And then, well, honestly, like after I had like tried it, it made like a lot more sense. But when I first saw it, I was like, this is wizardry. I don't understand.
Yeah, when it got to my my data structures course, that was when I realized that drawing stuff on paper can sometimes be very useful.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's like especially when you are using a language that has pointers and stuff like that too. It's like it makes things so much easier to follow. Especially when like, I don't know if did you guys ever have to do like the like write your code on paper questions?
I had an exam where I had to do code on paper.
Yeah, same. I had that for like, well, I guess most of my like programming, like the courses where they're like teaching us a language, we had to do that. And then one of ours, we had to do by hand coding Python stuff. And I was like, why would you do this with Python? It's the worst language to write by hand, because it's like, how are you're gonna count on me to make my indentation clear? Like, It's
Yeah.
so silly.
We had the exact same thing. Luckily,
Oh,
that was a
yeah.
very easy exam, and there were basically 10 free marks if you could. I think the last question, because we did OO in the final week, you got 10
Yeah.
free marks if you could like create a class, just basic create a class, and like basically 10 free marks because they didn't expect anyone to study
pretty
for it.
That's kind of awesome, honestly.
Mm.
I feel like, yeah, at least like ours was actually like pretty reasonable. But like since I had like the time when we had to do that, I'd already taken a course that had to do with C because like
Yep.
that was like a general, like everyone would take it course. So like you didn't have to be in software engineering to take it.
Mhm.
And so like, which was super chill for me because like a lot of other people were like, this is so unbelievable. And I was like, oh, thank God I don't have to learn this again. But yeah.
So, what languages besides those did you go through, or have you gone through at least so far?
In university,
Because how
well,
far are
pretty
you
much all
through
we had
now,
to do.
or are you done?
Like I should be done by this point, but because I was pretty much taking a semester off every year.
Okay.
Train, and then I was like pretty much taking the summer off to compete as well.
Mhm.
I like set myself back super far, so like I should only have like a year left, but like I don't know. I feel like I end up just all over the place at this point. But I've pretty much, so the languages that I've covered like in university at least is we did like C was my first language, C++, then we did Java,
Mhm.
and then we did Python. It's
Okay.
weird that that's the last language I learned.
Yeah, that's an odd one.
But yes, and then I think that's like the last stuff I've covered for school. And then I've done
Okay.
stuff like I've learned like I've recently been playing around with like some like other languages. Like I've been playing around with like Racket, like a scheme, like a Lisp.
Mhm.
All those Lisp enthusiasts out there going crazy. But yeah, that's pretty much all the language I've learned. Did you do? I think you said at one point that you did like C# in your
Yeah, we
university as
had
well.
a much wider range of languages we covered. Because the problem with my university is there's not much coordination past first year. After that point, each of the lecturers just do whatever the hell they want. So I did Python, Java, JavaScript, C# with ASP.NET, C# for Windows development, Swift for iOS, Java with libgdx, also C# with Unity.
Holy, that is quite the variety, honestly.
Yeah, they after I left, they have been restructuring the degree. So I think first year they're just going to be doing Python now.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to do like, well, I think like learning more languages is useful, but I feel like to a certain extent it's like, okay, let's just get this, let's teach the content rather than
I
having
think
to,
4 languages
like,
is fine because that's when you start to realize that learning a new language is actually really easy. But
yeah,
when you're getting to like 6 or 7, that's when it starts to be like, okay,
yeah,
well, I know like the syntax of all these languages, but I can't say I really know any of these languages.
yeah, exactly. That's like, yeah, that's kind of the reason that I started learning like Racket. Well, also because I was just like, it's like, one of the functional languages. Got to
Mhm.
hit on the trend. And yeah, and it's like just like a different language, which is kind of like interesting, a different syntax. But some people get so hung up on syntax.
Mhm.
It like kind of bothers. It kind of just drives me crazy. I don't know about you, but I just like some people are like just like it gets like we get it. There's syntax issues with the language, but it's not like that's not like this language is the worst thing
Mhm.
in the world. We can never use this language because it has a syntax issue.
Well, that was one of the things
Which I
that I didn't like about Python back when I first did it, because I'd actually done some Java beforehand.
yeah,
And not having brackets there and relying on indentation to everything, it was kind of weird. But
yeah,
what you realize is, sure, you can have these arguments about syntax, but ultimately, it's not going to change anything, so just deal with it as
yeah.
it is.
Yeah, it's like it is like annoying dealing with indentation, but it's like it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, if you have a good editor, it'll just do it automatically for you anyway, so just stop complaining.
Yeah. Exactly. Um, but yeah, anyways, actually, I had like a list of topics that I was
Oh,
like,
you do have a topic
this
list.
will
Wow,
prevent me
that's
from going
rare.
crazy. Yeah, I was also just like I knew I was gonna end up doing exactly what I was saying, where I was like just talking really fast. So I figured this would slow me down a bit. But yeah, so I was like looking. 1 second. Oh, never mind. No, these are all terrible topics actually. Looking over, so I was like just like threw some together based on like some what's it called? Some controversial content because I figured that would be
Oh
always a
yeah.
fun thing to talk about on podcast.
Well, I threw my
I
list
was like,
together at like 10 p.m. last night, so just before I was going to bed.
all right. I was just looking at. I had one that was like because I watched. I don't watch like the Linux Gamer very much, but I saw like one of the ones where he was talking about how he like banned cursing
Oh yeah.
in his comments, and I actually was like that's actually like a pretty. Oh, sorry. I guess you can't hear that. Sorry, my headphones like picked
Oh.
up. I guess it thought I said "Okay, Google" or something.
Oh.
All right, there it goes again. Anyway, so what I was gonna say was that he like made like a cursing is bad thing and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, you know, honestly, that's kind of like like at first I was like, that's just silly. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like it actually does make sense that I feel like allowing like I think it's like your content, so I feel like it's fair to like uh have your own opinion on it and stuff like that and limit what people can talk about and stuff like that. If they want to talk like curse and stuff, they can curse somewhere else other than comments. But I was kind of like interested. Like, what do you think on the idea of like I wish I hadn't said so much of my opinion on it because I feel like that sways things. But what are your thoughts on like do you think people should curse less? I guess
I'm
in
an
general.
Aussie, so that's a
Okay,
bad question
fair
to
enough.
ask me. We
Yeah,
did watch the Lewis Spears clip earlier. That basically sums up what it means to be an Aussie.
fair enough.
Mm.
Is it like do people curse around kids in Australia?
Oh yeah,
Or no?
absolutely. Yeah,
Oh, really?
no
Okay.
doubt. Yeah.
Oh, fair enough.
I try not to around other people's kids, but like if like my
It's pretty
parents curse
regular.
around me a lot. People curse around their kids. People curse around other people's kids. I normally don't do it in public just because usually
Okay, that's what I mean.
at least unless I'm with like people I know. Like if it's just some random person who I've never met, like oi you fucking dog, where's the train station? No, I'm not gonna do it with some random person. I'll do it with a mate though. But
No,
I
for sure.
don't really have a problem with people. Like I get that some people aren't really a big fan of it. So I'm more than happy to not curse around certain people or anything like that. But if it's people I know, people who I know aren't gonna just have a whine about it, sure, I don't really have a problem with doing it. And if someone wants to say, you know, it's the same with. I know for a while, didn't Luke have bloat blocked in his comment
Yeah, you did.
section? Yeah, if you don't want certain topics being talked about in your comments, I fully get that some people want to do that. That makes sense. Whether that's to be to stop certain things happening, or whether that's to like stop really annoying topics from happening, whether that's to stop people from just harassing them for no reason. If that's what they want to do to their section, that's fine. It's just I don't really like the idea of when say like YouTube decides, okay, these topics are not allowed on the platform. That I have a problem with. But if people individually want to go and moderate what happens around them, that's fine. I think more people need to be doing that. Like with people complaining that they're getting like harassed on Twitter and stuff like that. Like you have a block button.
Yeah.
I think it's kind of your job to moderate what happens around yourself.
Yeah, I feel like also something. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I sort of that's sort of where I stand on a lot of things. Like if you have the power to control it yourself, then you should just if you want to do that. I don't really have a problem with you controlling what happens in your own life.
Yeah, like it's your own thing. You don't have to get over it or something. If you have a problem with it, block it out. It's like the same thing as like, especially like something that comes up a lot in like the Linux open source community is like the idea of like changing a project. Like what's that like what's it called again? Like not a EULA, but a like a what's it called when you like a rules for like what you can talk about in
code of
the
conduct.
Linux kernel. Code of conduct. That's the word I was looking for. Like everybody gets like so upset about a code of conduct, which I feel is like totally reasonable. But I feel like also like a lot of the people that are pushing for a change in things like a code of conduct are like the same people that it's like, man, if this is such a big deal to you, maybe like, I don't know, obviously you're not going to fork the Linux kernel, but like some things it's like, honestly, like if you want to fork it, like something like Glimpse, do it. Like if it works,
Yeah,
if
I'm
people
more than
care enough
happy
to do
people
it, then sure.
forking projects and then not working on them. That's fine.
Yeah.
My problem is when an outside group comes and tries like force a code of conduct onto another project, which has definitely happened with a lot of bigger projects. And that's how a lot of them started adopting things like the contributor covenant. If a project wants to do it of their own volition, sure, whatever. But that's not usually how it ends up going down. It usually ends up being that someone comes and like bothers the project about it. Sort of the same reason why the main guy behind Python, what was his name?
I don't remember. There's no way I'm gonna remember.
Python dictator for life. Guido von Rossum, sorry. Yeah, due to like issues that are happening in the Python community, he sort of stepped down. But as I said, I don't have a problem if a project decides they want to do it of their own volition. That's sort of like if the main dev team's like, hey, we need some sort of code of conduct. That's fine. But yeah, I'm sort of going in circles right now. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. No, it's like a good example of what like of some things is like it's not the exact same thing, obviously, but like something like NeoVim and Vim, like this isn't really the only reason that it was forked, obviously, but like there was just two different views on how things should be handled, and NeoVim became a thing. It's like pretty much.
It's sort of funny if people complain about that because Vim exists because it's a fork.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's like Vim is like
or a re-implementation, I guess.
Yeah. That's the term.
That's sort of how the entire project's gone. It's like Vi was a re-implementation of X. X was a re-implementation of Ed. Like that's how this history's gone. I don't know why anyone would complain about that, really.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like kind of the sort of thing where it's like, well, like I don't know, like especially like a lot of people. There's a lot of videos that are like, what is the difference between NeoVim and Vim? And like I feel like the big thing is that like people don't. Like, I feel like a lot of people treat it as if like they're like exclusive things. Like it's like you have to pick a side, and I chose this side because of these reasons, and you shouldn't choose this side for this reason. Like I saw there was one video. I don't know if you like watched like TJ, like the NeoVim dev.
He does like the name rings a bell.
He's like pretty. Well, I don't know him personally. I've just like watched a bunch of his streams sometimes because I'm the king of procrastination, and he like has like. He like very clearly is very interesting to like listen to him talk about the development state for like NeoVim because he like he makes things pretty clear that it's not like there's no like it's not a fight between NeoVim and Vim. Like there's like communication between the two. Bram like clearly doesn't care too much about what NeoVim does. Like some things like he'll be like a lot of things it's like, oh, he sees like a neat feature and he thinks maybe that would be cool to implement, and then it's implemented. It's not like a like competitive like, oh man, NeoVim has this, I need to add it. Sort of thing, which I think is like kind of neat, but I feel like a lot of people treat it as if it's a direct competition. That's like all over the community, which I think is funny. But
yeah, well, NeoVim's sort of an interesting one because that's the reason sort of what's pushing Vim forward, because Bram has his vision on what Vim sort of needs to be. But NeoVim will do something like bringing in concurrency, and Bram was like, no, this application must be single-threaded. It is only single-threaded. There is no reason for it to be more than single-threaded. 5 years later, he was like, okay, well, maybe they were right. That's sort of how it seems to go with Bram. NeoVim will do something. It might be good. Eventually, if it's good, Bram will bring it into Vim as well.
Totally. I feel like, yeah. And it's like, it's the sort of thing where it's like, it doesn't seem nice. It doesn't seem worth it until someone pretty worth it. But yeah, anyways. You said you had a list of topics, right? I feel like I'm pulling you away from topics because I'm chatty.
No, that's entirely fine. I never really care about actually hitting the topics. I'm more than happy to just go on random tangents. Well, one thing is, what distro are you running right now?
I run Arch.
Okay.
I'm basic.
Because I saw you were using it's DWM you're running, aren't you? It looks like DWM at least. Okay. I wasn't sure what distro you had though. Why'd you end up going that route? Just because of Luke, like a lot of people?
Originally, so when I originally started using Linux, it was because I was trying to, like I said before, like strip down my system and like all that sort of stuff. And like I looked up what is the most minimal system I could get. And so the first one that I saw, the first one that came up, honestly, searching stuff like this up on Google is just a terrible idea. You never get real answers.
Yeah.
But the first one that came up was like Alpine, and I tried I like looked into running Alpine, but then I was like, oh, it looks like it's like some Docker thing. I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to do that sort of thing. Not that that's actually what it is, but that's just like how it's marketed nowadays by
Right.
other people, because that's what it's used for a lot of the time. And then another one that came up that everyone was like, oh, you should try this is Arch.
Mhm.
The other one was Gentoo, but that would have just been not really that would have been a bad idea. Also, like I knew of Gentoo as like that thing that's like, oh, you got to be like an intense graybeard level kind of guy to go into that. And I was like, Arch seems pretty approachable. And also like I'd first tried out like Manjaro
Mhm.
before that, and I was like, oh, like at least like a lot of this will be similar when I set up my Arch system.
Yep.
And then I just kind of went that route. That's kind of why I went with it.
That
I'm
makes sense.
honestly like, it's one of those things that I'm like, I try to avoid bringing up because I feel like everybody like has that whole like, oh, I run Arch BTW
Mhm.
meme that I'm just so sick of hearing. I don't know about you, but
Well, with Arch, I sort of I've got a video coming up about it soon. Why I don't really care for distro hopping, because the thing about Arch, and it's not just an Arch thing, it's sort of a thing with a lot of the minimal distros, so Void and Gentoo as well. You don't really think about the fact that you're running the distro because of how different it is compared to when you first install it. Like my Arch system probably looks nothing like yours, and probably looks nothing like the
yeah,
next person, because we all started from like a TTY, but no
yeah,
one runs Arch like that. But if you go and install something like, say, Ubuntu, most people who run Ubuntu are probably going to stick with GNOME. So even if there are like slight customizations, ultimately every Ubuntu system basically looks the same. But you can have
yeah,
completely different Arch systems, and that's just the way it's going to go. Like you could have,
yeah,
I'm running Awesome, or someone else could run like KDE at KDE, and they could like swap out the window manager for something else they really wanted to. It's just like there's no one Arch system. That's one of the things I do like about it.
yeah. I think it's like especially for people in a position like I feel like most people that run Arch, and I think D did a really good job at summarizing this. Sorry, I feel like once you start making YouTube videos, you watch less YouTube videos. But I thought I'd watch that one because like it'd be a pretty reasonable take.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so I watched that one, and he like did like a really good way of summarizing. Like eventually, if you just get into Linux, like you're gonna end up on something like Arch, some minimal distro, because you just like you don't like whoever made the distro for you doesn't know what you want. Only
Mm.
you know what you want.
Yeah.
But like some people like don't care about that. Some people just want a system that's up and ready to go. And I feel like that's why like that's one of
Mm-hmm.
the benefits of like other distros like Ubuntu and stuff like that is like a lot of people that want to become like Linux devs like are also not people that are like wanting to spend their entire life setting up a system. Not that
Yeah.
that's actually what the situation is, but like the fact that like people can just use something like Fedora that's like pretty targeted towards devs and stuff like that is like honestly probably one of the reasons that we like Linux functions.
Mm-hmm.
Like obviously like like eventually people will move to whatever works for them, but like I feel like people also don't look at that way, that perspective. Like even though it doesn't fit, most people also that make videos on Linux are
Mm-hmm.
exactly the people that I was describing before that are like that want to customize.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, so I feel like it's a great fit for like people in this sort of a situation. But like I feel like people like to give too much hate to like the not that I'm saying that you're trying to, but I feel like people like to not consider the situation that it's like that sort of thing is the only reason that we have as many devs as we do.
Actually,
Like
that's a
we
video
definitely
topic right
lose out
there.
on a lot of user-friendly devs.
I just realized there's a video topic there. I was gonna just. I have a notebook right here. I sometimes write stuff like as I'm going to bed. I think I'm gonna do a video on like the place for the like built up distro, like things like Ubuntu, Manjaro, things like that. Because yeah, you're right. A lot of those distros sort of do get a lot of hate. Like, oh, they're just like they're the newbie friendly distros. But I think
Yeah.
that's sort of. I think part of the reason for that is we're very much in this very tiny niche. So it seems like there's a lot more people who hate on those distros than there really is.
Yeah.
Like
No,
DWM,
I feel
sure,
like
a lot
that's
of
a big
people
thing.
run that, but it seems like there's more people that run it because of the people that were typically around.
Yeah. That's exactly like that's like a DWM is another one of those things saying I try not to show it off if I can. Whenever I make videos, I always like if I remember to, so that way no one like knows that I'm right. Because I just feel like it's like one of those things where it's like I don't like the idea of like supporting this idea that there's one like perfect system of running Arch and DWM
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know, running all the suckless utilities and only using C for everything is this perfect system that's untouchable. And if you aren't using that, you're making a mistake. Like that's just silly.
The one
Nobody's the
problem you
same.
have with hiding DWM is that bar is it's very noticeable.
Yeah, it's funny because when you were saying like, "Oh, my system probably looks completely different from you," I was like, "Oh,
Uh,
time soon. Why does it look
why is
identical?"
Discord cutting out again? I didn't hear
Uh,
that last thing you said.
I just said when you said that we have like very similar systems, I was like, I mean, very different systems. I was like, well, hopefully you don't run DWM anytime soon, otherwise they'll look identical.
Mm.
uh, at least
I
that's what I find. Like they look so similar.
I like
But
emojis in my bar though, so at least it'll look different
that's
there.
true. Yeah, I don't really put stuff up there. I don't really know why. I guess like I probably could, but
Well, my awesome bar is the default bar still. I haven't done anything with it. I think
yeah. How are you liking Awesome actually?
I really enjoy it. It's actually a really, really cool window manager. The main things I've messed around with is just tweaking how windows move around and things like that. And just I don't know why they did this. The default keys for awesome make no sense. They use like HJK and L for like resizing windows, doing things like that instead of moving stuff around. So I just had to
So then
rewrite all of
how
the
do you
default
move?
Bindings.
How do you move between windows then? Do
Arrow
you
keys.
like? Oh,
It's the same as they normally would be with Vim keys, but it's arrow keys instead.
oh, that's weird.
Yeah. Um.
Like you do you, but like I don't know, kind of questionable. Like I guess that makes sense. I
Well,
guess
it's
because
okay.
it's
No,
like it's meant to be like kind of working out of the box, right?
yeah.
I
It's
think.
one of those things like i3. It works fine out of the box, even though it makes no sense sometimes. Like i3's backwards Vim bindings.
Yeah, or it's like what is it? JKL colon or semicolon?
Oh no, yeah, it's not
It's just
backwards.
like
They shift them over. Yeah.
yeah. Which like honestly, like at least when I first when I first like looked at like window managers, like Luke Smith is like obviously the first guy that comes up,
Mhm.
and DistroTube, but like DistroTube was like showing up at the time when I like looked at it. DistroTube was like really into OpenBox, so I was just like, that's not really I wasn't really that into it because
Mhm.
at the time I was a KDE guy,
Ah, yeah.
which is which is how you get them locked in. You try KDE and then you just like customizing things. So you're like, I just need more.
Mhm.
I want I want it all. Uh, and so then I just I used like i3 and I remember like being so thrown off because like I feel like everybody that like just goes that route, goes the Luke Smith route, like tries Vim and then you're
Mhm.
like, I just don't get it. What's up with these key bindings? They're completely different. They're like they just don't make any sense because they just conflict so much.
Mhm.
It's like just silly. But yeah,
Yeah.
way too short. Go ahead.
There's I don't know. I think most people in this sphere sort of know who Luke and DT are, but as I was saying before, it seems like more people do than they're real. Seems like more people do than really do. There we go. That's how that works. Just because it is this very small group of people. Like DT only has, I think he's only just passing like 100K subs right now. Which is still massive. I
Yeah,
didn't think there'd be that many people interested in just random minimal Linux apps. Like that doesn't make any sense. But he sort of also
for
does do
sure.
the distro stuff as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes. But Luke, especially, like most of his original subs came when he was still doing like the DWM content and stuff like that. Which I don't know how there's that many people who are actually interested in it. That it always surprises me. That's actually one of the reasons why I did start making videos because I didn't think there were like I didn't before I had started watching Luke. I didn't think there were that many people who were just going to be interested in stuff like this. But as time went on, I was like, wow, there's actually people who care about this, and there are people who are very hungry for content like this. And I think you're saying sort of before that everyone sort of gravitates towards a minimal distro, and I think a lot of people are like
Yeah.
that, and that might be part of the reason why there's now so many people. It's just constantly growing. I don't think it'll be ever like the main thing people do on Linux, but
Yeah.
there's always going to be new people coming in just who want to kind of experiment with what's happening on Linux. Like, oh, I don't like the fact that GNOME does this thing. I'm going to try out something new and see if I can make something that works a bit better for me. And I think that is one of the cool things about Linux, that you can stick with what's comfortable, or you can go throw everything away and just start from the ground up.
Yeah. No, for sure. I feel like that's the biggest draw. That's like
Mhm.
the big that's the big thing. That's the big like that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't don't realize is the big draw, like the biggest thing about Linux. Like I feel like especially when it comes to like a lot of my friends I've like is trying to I try not to be like Linux evangelist to like an extreme extent around friends because I feel like it just it's hard on relationships if you know what I mean. It's like if you're just like dude you got to be using this thing, why aren't you using this, then you're just being a dick. Or but anyways, what I was gonna say was like I thought about like the idea of it. And it's like the fact that you could just like whenever somebody has an issue with something on their system, like I don't know if you've ever tried to connect like Bluetooth headphones on Windows, but it has like the dumbest setup ever in my opinion because you have to like there's too many steps to it. It should just be one step for the most part, and you could just make that yourself even if you didn't find anything for you on, which is just so nice.
I've
That's
never
not
had
really an
any
option
luck
on
with
Windows.
Bluetooth on Linux, so I can't speak for Linux being good. Linux's Bluetooth being
Yeah,
good.
I can't say it is. I can't say it's perfect. I show off. I had a video. I made a.
Oh,
But
I didn't hear any of that. Discord is god awful.
fair enough. I saw my mic just suddenly like disappear, and I was like, huh. Anyways, what I was gonna say was I did like a video showing off like my setup with Bluetooth. But it's like it's not too bad. But honestly, like there's too many steps to it, anyways. But at least it's done once.
Yeah.
So I guess it's actually terrible on all sides. Bluetooth is awful.
Well, at least with Bluetooth on Linux, you can just if you know what you want to connect, you can just make a script that does all of that stuff in the background for you.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, honestly, I think scripting is one of the biggest reasons we like get so many like people going to Linux, especially like Mac users that go to Linux. Like I feel like also like that's another thing is that people are just like so hard on like people that use Macs. And I feel like it's like if it wasn't for at least Mac before, probably not as common now because I feel like the transition's getting worse and worse as like Apple just locks things down more and more. Like the fact that you can't use Vulkan. Well, you can, I guess, but I think it's like a weird hack around. It's like kind of something similar to how like Wine does like or not Wine, VX, was it VXVK or X? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about? Gaming thing.
Yeah, I think
DXVK.
so, yeah. Yeah,
there we go.
Yeah, it's like what is it, like Vulcan on metal or something like that. I don't remember what it's called.
It's something like that. And it's like that sort of stuff is like a pretty big barrier. Like I feel like as they make that sort of stuff, but like I feel like a lot of people that make like especially command line tools are like people on Mac, and then eventually like they'll end up on Linux. Hopefully,
I have noticed that if you go on GitHub, a lot of the screenshots will be of like what are the Mac terminals called that I forget the name of?
Like iTerm too.
Yeah, that one.
Is that the common one?
Yeah.
I just was like, whatever sounds right.
Yeah, I always see like usually the thing I'll notice is the little the Mac bubbles, like the bubble
the
close
and
stuff. Yeah. Like, oh yeah, that's a Mac, isn't it? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. No, for sure.
But then you have the other extreme where it's like, I am running Gen 2 and I only run Gen 2.
Yeah, exactly. It's like funny because it's like I feel like it's just like I find like the biggest thing is like it's just like realize that we can all get along. We're not on like just be a bit more welcoming to these sort of guys, and then maybe we'll get like an extra dev on some project you like. It's kind of how I look at it. It's like the same thing as like when people. Oh, go ahead, man.
I was gonna say that's why I sort of don't flame like distro wars. I don't care. Just run a distro. It doesn't matter ultimately. Like in the end, if you really try hard enough, you can replace everything on the distro. You can replace the kernel. You can replace your package manager. You can literally turn Ubuntu into Arch if you really wanted to. There is no barrier.
Yeah, it's crazy. Especially like, what was I just thinking of? I was thinking of, I forget. Anyways. Yeah. I don't remember.
Let's see. Oh yeah, okay, that reminds me. Let's go here. I need to ask you about something.
I
need to ask you about this channel banner you have.
My channel banner?
Yeah, your channel banner.
Oh, I know the one that you're talking. That was actually made for me by a sub, which was like super sick. Honestly, it is kind of like a bit awkward. Honestly,
it does not look like the banner you'd have for a Linux channel. That's for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate that he made it. It's better than I would have done. But yeah, it's a bit cringy because it's like a picture. I was like, you just like asked for me to send him some pictures, and I just like grabbed whatever ones I had on hand.
Mhm.
And the only time I ever have pictures of myself is at like competitions.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just for some reason looked really serious in that one, and that was the one that he went with, which was my own fault. Shouldn't have shared that one if I didn't want to have it as my banner.
Well, if you want to just redirect to be like an entrepreneur channel, you can just keep the same banner. You wouldn't even look out of place.
Yeah, exactly.
I wake
Actually,
up at
honestly,
4
that's
a.m. I
what it
do
looks like.
I do 5 hours at the gym, and then I make Linux videos.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I can show you how to make $15 a month making Linux content. Um, I guess it depends on how many subscribers you have, but I feel like there's a lot of people that like make. There's also like it's weird. Like some people that make Linux content that have been around for like forever have like 2,000 subscribers, but have
Mhm.
like been around for like years and years making like constant videos. Or
Hex
actually like one of the like
DSL.
yeah, that's a good example. I was literally listening to that today because I was like, I should make sure that I know how this podcast sounds a bit ahead of time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was
Yeah,
listening to
Hex
that
was a
one. He
fun
was saying that
guess,
he'd been around forever.
even though I was
Yeah.
up very early in the morning for that one. Because UK time. Yeah,
Yeah, I was just
Hex has
thinking.
been around for how many years at this point? Let's find out. Because he's not even at 10k yet, which is really weird. 11 years.
That's insane. I don't even know if I've had like a Google like account, like a
Mhm.
account that I could have made YouTube videos on for that long. That's insane.
Okay, no, there were just a couple of random videos, but he started making videos regularly 5 years ago. Okay, so still a long time, a really long time.
Yeah, it's like kind of crazy, and it's
Mm.
like I feel like a lot of it is just like stuff like people just aren't looking like, especially because he used to do. At least when I was listening to the podcast, he was saying that he used to do like Linux video gaming content, which like
Mhm.
you know what, super niche.
Mhm.
uh,
Well, he
like I
still
feel
does
like
do that. It's just, yeah, it's still pretty niche. Usually, what he does is like, I'm gonna test the game, but lately he's just been very much pushing Gemini and things like that.
yeah, yeah. I remember I first saw one of his back when like DT mentioned him on like his Gopher video,
Hmm.
and I was like, oh, I'm surprised I've just never seen this guy, and he had like some pretty interesting videos and stuff.
Hmm.
Uh, oh yeah. Oh,
I was
that's a good
surprised
guy.
that DT hadn't been around much longer, because especially considering how long Hex has been around, I think DT's only been around for like 3 or so years.
I feel like the big reason is like up until recently, like the biggest draw for clicks is like
Yeah,
distro reviews.
yeah, yeah.
uh,
I would
and you can
bore
like you
myself
could
to
see it
death
like
doing those.
go ahead. Yeah, you can see it like you can see like channels will like be doing pretty all right, and then you know they do like a distro review, bam, like booming.
Hmm.
Especially if they do something like a distro review of like I don't know Ubuntu
Hmm.
or something versus something
That's
videos
a
do
good way to
pretty
do
well.
it.
Actually, speaking of distro reviews, like somebody who does like what like distro did dish. I guess it's not really quite the same anymore, but like, do you know who EG is? Like, he's got like a like he's got
Oh,
a
I
wolf
think so.
for a thumbnail or like a profile picture.
I-
But anyways, I remember he like does like distro delves, which are like legitimately like actually a distro review.
Mhm.
And you know what? If you're gonna make a distro review, at least you got to do it right. Like he does, he at least does he doesn't do like an insane amount of research on like some of them, but he at least like gives you like a breakdown of like this distro was able to like extract these files without issue.
Mhm.
It didn't open my music in Audacity, even though obviously I just want to listen to music, and stuff like that. Which I feel like you know, obviously I don't really watch that very often, but it's
Mhm.
like I'm just like I appreciate it when people like actually I if there's anything that I feel like YouTube needs more of, it's people doing their due diligence. Um,
Yeah, I've
but
definitely tried to make sure I'm getting stuff correct lately, because I've a lot of my older videos I've said stuff that wasn't entirely true, and people
yeah,
have definitely called me out for it. But having a channel as large as I do have, I feel like I sort of have to at least put some effort into it.
yeah. Especially like also like it's way harder when you're releasing content as often as
Mhm.
to like do that much due diligence. Which is the same thing with like DT and
Mhm.
anybody else that releases a lot of content. I
Well,
guess like mental. Outlaw.
There you go.
Got it this time. Mental Outlaw is another example of one who like releases like tons of videos all the time.
Well,
It's like you're gonna make mistakes.
DT's way worse than I am because I bulk record.
Yeah.
I bulk record. He records and edits and uploads the day it goes out. That is
Yeah.
insane to me. I don't know how he does that.
Yeah, it's well, sometimes you can see in the video how he does it, but
Yeah, well, yeah,
But
a lot of them
it's
might
either
just
way.
be single takes.
It is impressive.
Mm.
Yeah, but it's not that the content's bad, more of just like the amount of like looking into the topic that he actually got to do was like clearly pretty limited. But like some of them like it's pretty impressive how much he knows about it. Like I was like whether or not he's like got like an insane understanding of Emacs, but at least like covering a topic that big with like no background in it is a pretty big feat to go into. Like I remember I didn't like make because I've made like a few Vim related videos, but and that's pretty much purely because like before I was like so nervous to make Vim related videos because I feel like everybody that like before they make YouTube videos is so critical of everybody else's videos and they're like, this guy got it totally wrong. So I was like, I need to know everything possible about Vim before I make a single video on it. And then I was like, you know what? I feel like I know enough. I feel like I know as much as I need to be able to talk about some of this sort of stuff.
No matter how much you know about Vim, someone's going to show you a more optimal way to do something.
Yeah. I always just try to use whatever's built in. And I feel like that way, if somebody tells me that there's a plugin for it, I could be like, I'm just using what's built in with Vim. Therefore, I obviously know more. That's how some people look at it. Which I feel is like it's like some things plugins are better at. Like like there's some things that are nice, but like some things it's pretty hard. Like going to definition with C tags, pretty great. But when you have like a huge project, like generating those tags just takes like way too long.
Yeah, that's another weird fight that exists. It's a niche fight that no one actually cares about, but vanilla Vim versus Vim with plugins.
Yeah.
I don't know why there are people who it's like so hard in one camp or the other. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah. I think like I kind of get like the argument, or at least like I'm kind of one of those guys that like is pretty into the idea of like not like I think plugins are totally necessary, and it's one of the big like even Bram who like is pretty against like adding new features into things. The reason that he doesn't want to add new things in is because he's like that should just be a plugin. A lot of the time is what he's argued before. I don't want to speak for Bram, but that's what he's at least said publicly sometimes. It's just like that feature sounds sweet, but it could just be a plugin, and then that's way easier to maintain. Technically, plugins can be kind of brutal to maintain, but yeah, I feel like if it's built in, it's probably going to work better, but sometimes it's not going to.
Yeah,
like stuff like some things just like break things like macros. There's just like some plugins the person did not put any effort into making macros work, and then like you run a macro and you've suddenly just like deleted the whole file, and you're like, what was the point of that? I guess I'll just undo that and do it manually or turn off the plugin. So I feel like that makes sense, but like the extent of like no plugins is just like overkill. Like,
I get it for people who just want to use Vim like when they connect to a server. That makes sense. You should know how to use Vim without plugins, but like do some like web development, like modern web development in Vim without any plugins.
Yeah,
that's not fun.
Yeah,
I don't want to manually write out the closing tags for everything. That sounds like hell.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I think like there are like ways to do stuff like that work out well with like native Vim, but like you're customizing it at that point. So like, is it really like obviously if you could do it? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say all plugins are just Vim script, so most of them. So really, it's just modifying Vim ultimately.
Totally. I think that's like the biggest thing for sure. Yeah. How do you feel about? Do you use Coq or COC or Conqueror of Completion?
Yeah. Use it.
Okay. Yeah. Like, how do you feel about having?
It has so much boilerplate configuration.
I feel like there's like a lot of varying degrees of how people feel about it. That being said, I feel like I don't use Coq because I don't do web development. Yeah. And like if I did TypeScript or JavaScript, I'd probably use it because straight up the TypeScript language server on most other like language server plugins or using like NeoVim's native stuff is just not usable. It's not usable, but it's nowhere near as good. using Cock for most other things, it's like pretty much you're not getting much extra benefit. But for that sort of stuff, it's like, well, and Java is pretty much terrible to try and do Vim completion. And I don't know if you ever tried that. God damn, that is terrible.
No, I don't think I've tried to do Java and Vim at this point. But
I've done, like,
TypeScript
all
is
my
lovely. I
classes.
love it.
Yeah. But yeah, exactly. If you're using like Cock, I feel like it's pretty alright. But if you're like just trying to do it with using like something else, it's like, oh my god, it just like you don't get any good completion. But for some reason, it likes Cock. Okay, that sounds weird to say out loud.
I'm gonna take that one line out of context. No, I've done when I was doing some Angular stuff, I was using the Angular server and the TypeScript server, and I didn't have any complaints about it. Like I think the last time before that I'd done any Angular stuff was in VS Code, and VS Code, I like VS Code. Like, it's a good editor. If you want to be using something, that's where I would suggest most people going. Most IDEs don't really add anything really extra over VS Code that most people really use. Like, sure, like some of the code coverage features are useful if you're doing some really big projects, but if you're not, it's just extra features there for no reason. So VS Code is probably the only code editor I would go to besides using just Vim directly. And I didn't really have that much to say about the difference in experience between the two of them. If you get your language servers working correctly, at least for TypeScript and Angular, it's basically as good as I could want it to be.
Yeah, like for sure. I feel like especially when people tell me like a program and I'm using Vim to do it. And I just feel like, dude, I'd like, unless you really are set, just like use VS Code. And then when you like feel like you can actually program, then learn, because you don't want to learn. There's no point in learning two things at once. You're just going to make more mental overhead. You're just making your life harder. It's like, at least, well, I guess some people maybe somehow have no idea how to like use a normal text editor like VS Code, but VS Code is like super user friendly comparatively.
Well, if you know how to use Notepad, you can work out at least how to type stuff in it.
Exactly. VS Code is like one of the things that convinced me that like moving to Linux, because like I also like my university had me using like Visual Studio, like the IDE.
Oh, okay.
When I was doing C++, and I was like, I could never leave this. This is so awesome. Because before that we used Eclipse. So obviously it's
I can see why Visual Studio would be awesome.
Yeah, and then I was like, oh, it's actually, well, it is pretty. Honestly, VS Code is awesome, but it's like the sort of thing where it's like, oh, actually, maybe I just was using terrible tools before this. But like the fact that it's on Linux is just honestly pretty sweet. I feel like it's like a pretty easy way to like get people trying it out.
What IDEs have you had to suffer through? Because I've got my fair share of them as well.
I've like pretty much, besides like my first year I did Eclipse. And my second year, I used Visual Studio.
Yep.
And then I used Notepad++, which isn't an IDE, but I used that. And then I was just like, I don't need an IDE anymore. And then I like, for my testing, or what's it called? I don't know, my testing class that I had to take, like a class focused purely on software testing.
Oh, okay. That would be a boring class.
Yeah, it was kind of interesting for some of it, like learning how to like make a good test, like how to get perfect code coverage and stuff like that.
That's one of the things we never really properly covered. Like, we had some like assignments we had to include some code tests, but we weren't really taught like what a good code test really is. We're just like, input output. That's basically as far as we got.
Yeah, it is kind of boring, honestly, but like I at least appreciated it. I appreciated the effort to like try and get that sort of stuff to be better, especially because like I feel like testing is something that like, you know, people don't really think of very often, and when they think of it, it's too late.
Yeah.
But like they had like a topic like focused on like test-driven development, which I found like actually like kind of like an interesting approach. Like none of it was like something that you couldn't learn yourself pretty easily.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, anyways, I found that pretty interesting. Oh yeah, but my point was going to be that we're supposed to use IntelliJ,
right?
But I just used like Vim for almost all of it. And eventually I had to use IntelliJ for some of this stuff because there wasn't a way to do code coverage. I'm sure if somebody will tell us in the comments that there is a way to do it in Vim, but I didn't know how to do code coverage from without IntelliJ.
Mhm.
So I had to use it for that stuff, and then I was like, you know what, fine, I'll just use the Vim plugin for
I'm gonna find
the
something
rest of this
right
class.
now. Vim code coverage.
Oh god.
Vim coverage is a utility for visualizing test coverage results in Vim. That was
Of
easy.
course.
It's by
But
Google. What? Okay, Google made a Vim plugin to do code coverage. Sure.
that sounds about right. Well, they've made plugins before, actually.
Well, they just let their devs sort of like do side projects, like when they're not busy.
whatever
That's how
they-
things like I think Gmail might have been a side project by one of the devs.
Oh wow, that's like pretty. That's surprising that like that long ago it was kind of.
But that's how
I think-
Google has all of these random weird projects. Some of them they end up killing really quickly because
Yeah.
I don't know that. I guess that's one of the nice things about working at a company like Google. I wouldn't ever want to work there because it sounds like a horrible experience. But the rest of it, that part sounds nice. But the rest of it, I'm not a big fan of. I don't like the idea of open offices. That's one big thing I'm not a fan of.
Yeah.
But
No, for sure.
I was going to say about what I've gone through. So before university, back when I did Java in high school, we were using a program called Greenfoot. I understand you have no idea what Greenfoot is. No one has ever heard of Greenfoot. Greenfoot is basically a education tool for doing Java. If you just look up Greenfoot, you should be able to find it.
What?
It's sort of like it's a step up from doing Scratch. So instead of doing everything drag and
That's
drop,
what I was thinking.
now we still drag and drop like elements into the scene, but then you have to go and actually program them in Java.
Honestly, it's kind of a sick way to start, I guess.
Yeah, it actually is it's definitely a good upgrade from Scratch, and it runs on basically anything. They've got a really old Mac icon for the icon they use for Mac. I don't know why. Yeah. And it's like the Finder icon, not the Mac OS icon.
Honestly,
Anyway.
looking at like the images that they have, I was like, is this a Flash thing?
I guess if you've done Flash, it's probably like a good sidestep, I guess. So from there, I did. It's not an IDE. It's just a code editor. I used idle for Python, which is the worst thing you can ever write Python in.
What's that one? I feel like I've heard of that one before.
It doesn't have number lines. It doesn't have basically any features. It's just basically Notepad with a run button.
Oh.
Yeah, it's not fun. So I think like 3 weeks into that class, one of my mates discovered the JetBrains suite, and we used PyCharm for the rest of the class, which is so much better.
I've heard you mention JetBrains. I've heard you mention JetBrains a few times.
Yeah, if I have to use an IDE, the JetBrains suite is probably the only IDE suite I'll ever use.
Fair enough. It seems to be pretty popular.
From there, I went to Eclipse. I think it was Eclipse Neon or something. I don't know. All the versions of Eclipse are awful.
I'm sorry to any Eclipse devs that are out there, all one of you that exist.
Maybe there's actually a developer of Eclipse watching this. In that case, I'm slightly sorry to you, but your program is really slow. Like really, really slow.
Did you ever have to use Eclipse for do they have you use do assembly stuff at your uni?
I think like 1 week we did it as like a sort of look at what assembly is, but no like actual proper assembly coding.
Yeah, we had to do like assembly stuff. It was weird because it was one of those I don't know if you've ever had like a pre-lab that you're like, this should just be a class. Like, why am I learning this? Why am I teaching myself this entire course just before this lab?
Yeah.
That was basically what it was. They gave us a pre-lab, and then they were like, all right, write a bubble sort algorithm using it, which is pretty simple, except when you've literally just taught it to yourself, probably an hour before class, is pretty rough.
On that note,
because you're just I have no idea what I'm doing.
Yeah, so, I've had some pretty bad things like that. A lot of my classes were actually, you do the classwork before class, and you come to class to get marked, and that's all it was.
Yeah,
which was dumb.
That's so many labs. All right, what other IDEs have you used? That just came to mind because I was like, oh wait, did you ever have to do this? Because it has some nice features for that, but
after
they're still pretty jank.
after I hated my life from using Eclipse for a while, I discovered IntelliJ, and that was much nicer.
Yeah.
The only problem was that we were given Eclipse project files for some of the classes, so I would have to like go and rebuild the projects from scratch. Because I think you can import Eclipse files into IntelliJ, they just don't always work properly.
Yeah, for sure. We were like always. I feel like at least when we had to use IntelliJ, like for that testing class,
Mhm.
like we were just given a project, and they were like, "I think you can just import this. I have no idea if it works." Um, and most of the time it worked. Other times it was like, "I don't know what's going wrong," and then it'd be like, "Oh, you need like Java 8 to run it."
Well, even if it doesn't work, you can always just rebuild the project with the class files. Not a big deal.
Yeah.
Okay,
Exactly.
from there, what else did I have?
Holy crap! You guys used. I mean, holy dang!
Yeah,
You guys used
you
more
can
than
say
that?
whatever you want. I don't care.
Okay.
Did you
That's
forget the Lewis
insane.
clip already?
Yeah. I was like, just in case he plans to curse it out.
No,
Alright, so where are we going?
I don't really care. Visual Studio was next. We did HTML and JavaScript, like just plain HTML in Visual Studio, and then we did JavaScript in Visual Studio.
I didn't even know people did that.
They don't, but we did in this
Okay.
class. Then sensibly we did
Oh my god.
with C# with ASP.NET, which that's fine because it's the only thing you can do C# with ASP.NET in.
Fair enough. I
Um,
was kind of like surprised. I literally thought you could hit for C++ and C because I didn't really look too much into it after.
well, no, you
using
can. It's basically a general IDE as well. You can use it for other things.
Oh, that's
You
sick.
wouldn't want to.
Or and C sharp.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Let's see. From
Right.
there, I think my next one would have been Android Studio. That was my Android class. It's
Okay.
literally just IntelliJ with an Android emulator built into it. So if
Sorry,
you
my
like,
camera's like going crazy.
it's all good. Yeah, it's just
Right.
it's just IntelliJ with an Android emulator built into it. I don't have anything to say about that one.
Well, like it doesn't seem. At least that's better than like Eclipse with an Android engine.
Yeah, that's fair. That's definitely fair. From there, I think the only
Holy
other
crap.
one I would have done was Xcode. That was
That's
when
what
I was doing
gonna say.
iOS stuff, and you don't really have.
Is Xcode like? Sorry, go ahead.
It's okay.
It's good. I
It's
mean, it's
okay.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess it's all you can really say about it's not perfect, but it's got pretty much enough.
I'm
It's got enough.
Pretty sure it's a fork of like Mono Develop or something on macOS. I don't remember. It's some weird thing. Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah, that is weird. I was like ready for you to say something that
Oh, no, I missed one. When we did C++, we were doing C++ with Qt. So we were using Qt Creator.
Actually, I've tried Qt Creator before. It's pretty. I found it pretty nice. For what you're using it for. It's not really great when you like have an editor you like, but if you don't have anything that you like particularly, it's pretty alright. Gives you nice
It's good if you're
completion.
doing Qt stuff. If you're not, go use
Yeah.
like C-Align or something.
Yeah, what are you doing if you're using that for anything? Not C, Qt.
Mhm.
So yeah,
That's all my massive extent of IDEs I've used. Now you see why I don't like them, because I've used too many of
that's kind of
them.
impressive. I get so like I get like kind of I don't know about you, but I get frustrated. It's like I just find like when I'd just be faster in Vim, and I'd rather at this point honestly I'd be probably faster just doing it in Vim and then
Mhm.
copy pasting it over.
Well, I didn't discover Vim until I think my like 3rd year or something like that. So I'd already done most of these IDEs by that point.
Mm. Yeah, I discovered it at like a weird time. So I've done like most of my courses with it, besides C and C++, which surprisingly I've still had to use for like operating systems courses and stuff like that. So yeah.
It sounds like your degree sort of had a much lower level approach than mine did.
Yeah, I think it's just because like like the engineering. Well, also like because I took like an extra year of electrical engineering. Instead, so I like you have like your second level course is supposed to be like an object oriented course that you take.
Yeah.
And so like if you were in software engineering, you would just do Java.
Yeah.
But since I was in electrical engineering and you use like C++ And I guess I also used MATLAB for other classes.
Yep.
And so I like learned that sort of stuff. So it sounds more low level, but I guess like I
Oh,
feel like you guys
wait, I
did an
forgot
operating
one.
system.
I just
Oh my
realized
goodness!
we
Did
did.
you do one for every language?
I did an AI class and used Jupyter.
Okay, that's pretty fair. I've only had to use Jupyter for like a astronomy course I'm in right now.
Okay, yeah.
It's pretty all right. I don't know. It's not perfect, but it gets the job done.
It's cool to see like the notebook sort of structure. That's an interesting approach, but I wouldn't use it for anything else.
Yeah, I don't know how like some people like do all their work in it. Like apparently that's like super common with like physics related majors.
Mhm.
To just like they just do like all the programming they ever do is just in a notebook, which I'm like, that's insane.
All right.
But yeah.
There's
like,
a Vimkey support,
I don't know how
though, so
you
that's
can handle
cool.
that. Yeah. There's like tons of like weird plugins too, or like is it a kernel? No, kernel is like different languages that can run within it. I don't know too much about it.
I only did Python with it, so I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, I only had to use Python with it. It was pretty neat. I like it. It's kind of like that R Markdown sort of thing. Not that I've really used R Markdown very much. I used it once when I was like, "Oh man, Luke Smith is the coolest guy in the world, and he uses this. I should totally like this." And then I was like, "I have no use for this."
If you want to get some R Markdown shilling, go watch some of Brian's older content before he was doing Obsidian stuff.
Yeah, I remember. I was like around the time that I was like pretty much like at least like I feel like Brian. Well, I guess Brian definitely knows me from like that guy that like at the time I'd like show up to all of his live streams and I'd just be like, oh, nice, because it worked out perfect. I like had a class right before, and then I was just like, oh, nice background noise of someone talking about Linux. Now that's not the same sort of thing, but still a cool guy.
Yeah, now he's. I don't know how he's managed to like. There's channels like this where they just like hyper specialize on one thing. I don't know how you wouldn't go insane doing that.
Like he's making content on one for all you guys that like. I don't know if you guys have watched Brian's stuff, but he does like videos pretty much exclusively on like Obsidian, which is like a note taking program. Seems pretty cool, but I'm like, holy, how do you like? I just feel like that's like the sort of thing. Actually, you made a video recently where or I think like you mentioned it in like a recent podcast or something. You're like saying like people are saying that like Linux isn't a content like that, and I was like, I would think that about this one program, but apparently not. There's just always something new to talk about. Apparently, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I don't know. He seems to be slightly breaking out a little bit. Now he's looking at Anki and Obsidian together.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, sure.
I remember he was like really into like Anki sort of stuff when he was like earlier on. So I was like, oh, I guess that kind of makes sense. But I feel like also it's just like if you just combine everything with it, you'll never run out of content.
Well, no, the Linux content farm thing that's such a nonsense statement. Like, yeah, of course it's a content farm. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, Linux, like Linux itself is literally like there's honestly, if you just read the source, like if you just did every video, just read. You'd probably never run out of topic. You'd probably just keep going.
I don't know.
Did it cut out?
Yeah, Discord. This is why I don't use Discord that much anymore.
I was gonna say you could just spend like your entire life just reading the like Linux source code for every video, and you like word for word just read it like if bracket. I just go through that, and you'd probably never run. There'll probably always be some change to the file, and you're like, all right, version 2, time to update. Okay, you could just do that for years.
You could, but you could also make videos people want to watch.
Yeah, I don't know how popular that would hold up. Actually, I've seen like some people that do like analyses of like open source projects. Like there was like a guy who did that for like a bunch of Haskell programs, which I thought was pretty neat, but I don't program in Haskell and I don't know it, so I didn't watch them very much.
Yeah, someone asked me to do something like that. I'm like, I don't really have the expertise to make that an interesting video.
Yeah. That would be pretty difficult to do unless you were like an expert in the language and the topic and the use case.
Yeah, the place where I think I'm doing a decent job at is comparing and contrasting existing applications. So there is hundreds of RSS applications. I can look at them and actually make some sort of judgment on whether that's actually something worth trying out, because I've seen like, here's what all of the other competition out there actually does. That's sort of what I'm doing with video editors right now. I think
Yeah. Oh, dude,
that-
I was. Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that makes more sense for me to focus on rather than trying and doing something where I know that it's just not gonna work for me.
Totally. I was gonna say, speaking of video editors, I
Mhm.
like recently, so like a while ago, because before I was running like a laptop that like didn't have OpenGL support, or OpenGL up like after like 1.0 or something
Mhm.
like that. So like just old as hell. And then I recently upgraded and I started like playing around with using Blender as a video editor. And I like saw your video on it. And I was like, man, I thought you were, when I read the thumbnail and I was like, he switched, he made it. It must be worth it. And then I was like, nope, he doesn't like it.
I hate it. It's so. Apparently, it's getting a rewrite, so maybe it'll be good.
Oh, really?
But
Is that like supposed to? That's pretty sweet. I like. Sorry, go ahead.
it would be like the Blender part. The Blender part is amazing. I like
Yeah.
I don't like how Blender does its like moving panels around, but that's fine. The Blender
Yeah.
hotkeying everything under the sun. That's cool. I like that. That's useful.
Yeah.
But it's really slow. It's really slow, and it doesn't let me import
Yeah.
multiple audio tracks.
Yeah. That would be probably an issue.
Honestly,
I like just
my
use
my,
proxies,
my
but
minimum
still.
requirement is let me import multiple audio tracks. I record 2 of them. I want to import both
Yeah.
of them.
Like, what do you mean? Like, it doesn't let you import 2 audio tracks for one video?
So if I drop in like this podcast, so right now my voice and your voice are being recorded on separate tracks. If I drop it into
Yeah.
Blender, it just ignores yours and just has mine there.
Oh. Oh, that's terrible. Okay,
Yeah.
I can see that being it. I have not faced that yet because I don't have. I haven't done any videos where anyone else that's talking through a different mic.
I usually put my desktop
that makes
audio on a
sense.
separate track as well.
Something I saw that was actually really sweet.
Mhm.
That I thought was really sweet, and I was actually talking about it recently in Discord because I was like, somebody hopefully does this. But there's like a setup that people have done. I have not played with Jack like at all, but there's people that have like set up Blender to use Jack to use Ardour, which is like, I don't know if you know what Ardour is. But it's
Yeah,
like
I saw you post that link. Do you have that link around still?
probably not on hand. I'll see it. I'll
I think I can find it.
But it there it is. I found it.
Cool.
1 sec.
I need a better solution where I don't break the cameras when I open up my Discord window.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, there we go. So basically, the way that it does it is it actually Jack to basically sync up Blender and Ardour to allow you to do like your audio editing in, which like I don't know if you like have the same opinion I do, but like audio editing in any of the Linux video editors is just like it's terrible.
Oh, yes.
Just do it in post.
Yes.
But like this, I was like, this is perfect. This is it probably is not perfect. But I was like, this is pretty sweet. And I was like, maybe, and then when you were saying that, I was like, maybe this would be a pretty cool option. Probably overkill, considering, but I was like, oh, kind of neat.
Yeah, I've never looked into Ardour. It looks like a really cool app for people who do any audio production work, though.
Yeah,
I know that Unfa uses it on his channel. You know who that is?
Yeah. I've looked at his stuff before. One of my buddies was like, I'd give Linux a try, but I like right now he uses like FL Studio, and he was, is there anything like it? And I was like, sure, I don't know, I'll look. And then I looked into it, and it seems like Ardour seemed pretty sweet. Seemed like it was getting like lots of development and stuff, but it seems like there's like the devs are like super against people that are like music producers that aren't like doing like guitar and live instrument stuff. Like, don't quote me on that, but I've like seen like lots of topics of people just being like, don't use it. Like people, they just aren't interested in it. Like, you know, it like, I don't know if this is actually true. I don't want to quote like, what's his name? Ofa. Is that how you say his name?
Amfa.
But Amfa. He made a video on that. And then I was like, oh, I see. And I've seen like other comments about it, but also it seems like a lot of people do that. So whether or not it's really like gonna matter, who knows? But I was like, I don't know, man, maybe give it a try. But I wouldn't give up a program that you paid for and switch to a whole other operating system for something that I might be completely wrong on.
Yeah. Well, you could always just give it a try in like a VM or something.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like maybe he'd give it a try. Like the big thing is that like he always is like, oh, but I want better. Like he has like I don't know. Eventually, when you're like making like a lot of audio production, you like run into system issues. Like my
Mhm.
dad also does audio, like makes music and stuff like that.
Yeah.
A weird coincidence, actually. I'll mention that. They like eventually you just run into like system requirements of like running all these synthesizers at the same time and stuff. And then like I'm sure if I had him trying that out in a VM, he'd just be like, "This is awful. Why do you use this?"
That's fair.
Yeah, but trying things out in a VM sometimes is a pretty good option, especially for like people that are like, I don't know, I don't want to use Linux because it doesn't have Word. And it's like, dude, LibreOffice is almost always fine. Not that I
Yeah.
use LibreOffice very much.
My worst VM experience was actually I've got two of them. One was doing iOS development. I did that in a VM when I was running Linux. Not fun, very slow. It was on my laptop that it's actually not around here. It wasn't on this desktop. This desktop would have been fine. Laptop, not so
Yeah.
much. I think it had like 4 gigs of RAM. It had an i7, but it was a laptop i7. I think it was like a 4-core or
Yeah.
something. So not the best. Running macOS with a dual core is not exactly a good experience.
Yeah, I believe it.
But-
Especially like, yeah, VMs just suck it all up.
Well, I think it got to the point where my host system didn't really have the performance to actually run the VM properly. So
Yeah,
it was just not
No, for
a
sure.
good experience at all.
yeah.
But my
No, on
other
old
one,
laptop,
my other one, which was way worse, was back in 20. I don't know what year it was. It was a couple of years ago, back in my first year of uni. I was using a 2012 MacBook. It wasn't 2012. It was, I think, like 2018 or something. So it was already getting fairly old.
I was like, oh, well, that's not too bad if it was 2012.
Actually, no, to be fair, 2012 MacBook Pro, so not as bad, could be worse.
Yeah.
And I needed to run what is it? Microsoft SQL Management Studio or whatever the hell it's called.
Oh, I've heard about that. It's like, someone else was telling me about that. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about, though.
I had to use that for the class, so I had to run a Windows VM on my 2012 MacBook Pro, which barely ran anyway, and then running a VM on it was just even worse. That was not a fun
Surprised
class.
that boot.
I think it took
That's
like
rough.
10 minutes to open up Management Studio.
Yeah. I've just like accepted that like if I want to use anything that relies on Windows or Mac OS, like I either just have to like I refuse to use a VM or anything. I will just find another literally have to use it, and then I'll just use the lab computers.
Mhm.
Which is extreme, but I'm just like, I don't care. I don't want to do this. I can't put myself through it.
Last year, I had a course where I had to use Unity. I had to use a very specific older version of Unity. And I was like, I could get this working on Linux, or I could just buy an SSD for like $50 and install it on that. That's what I did.
Dude, what is with universities and not updating their like freaking education system? Like,
No,
stop
to be
making
fair
us
with this
use
one,
older
I was
versions.
this was my honors project, and I was continuing development of an existing project.
Oh, okay.
So I can accept it for this one. But my my VR course, we had to use like the 2019 version of Unity or something weird.
Oh, okay. So it's still not that great.
Yeah, no.
Or I guess it depends on the year, but
It was
I
last
assume it
year.
wasn't 2019. Okay.
So it could have been worse. I could have been using a really old version of ASP.NET like my web dev course, or the original version of Angular.
Yeah.
Which
exactly.
Not fun. Angular JS, like when it was still called Angular JS, not just Angular.
Oh, no, for sure. I can't. At least for me, like whenever my university does not update some things enough. Like I feel like all universities don't. Like especially if you like take any like physics courses, like whatever physics lab you're taking, like they are like whatever it is, it's probably old as heck, and they just have refused to update that one lab until it suddenly stops working. At least like that's been my experience. It's like running like Windows XP just for us to use this one random program. But yeah, so whenever that stuff happens, I'm always just like, what's the point? Just update it, please.
That is one of the nice things about the uni being very dependent on Macs. So they sort of have to update the Macs.
Yeah. Yeah, actually, honestly, programs that are like Mac because Mac just changes like some systems all the time.
It's even worse now. Apple doesn't
God.
like you talking bad about Macs, apparently.
Oh, okay, now it's picking me up. I was like, it stopped picking me up for a sec. All right, I'll just say what I was gonna say before it stops picking me up. I was just gonna say, like anything that relies on Mac is like probably gonna be like updated more often, just because Mac loves to just break whatever
Yeah, yeah.
API you rely on. They're like, nope, changing it. Got to rewrite this entire API. At least my tiny amount of Mac experience, it felt like that.
You know, I definitely know the same sort of experience. Yeah. Let's see. What else do we have on here? I was looking up topics last night, and I just looked up Linux news on Google, just because that seemed like a decent way to find topics.
Yeah.
Some of the things that like it says like people also ask, you've got like, is Linux going to die? Is Linux losing popularity? Does Linux have a future? Does anyone use Linux anymore?
Jesus.
But my favorite one is there's a post from 12 years ago called "Why do Linux users hate Windows?" I'm gonna send you this link because the 10 reasons this person gives are amazing.
Oh, it's a list. I thought it was a question.
No, they provided this Windows user provided a reason why Linux users don't like Windows users.
Do you hate Windows, or do you consider yourself an Android person?
I don't run it myself, but I'm very much of the mindset like if you need to run it or you want to run it, like I get that a lot of games don't run properly on Linux. That's fine. If you want to run Windows, that's cool. Or if you need to use it for uni or work or whatever, like there's reasons why. Like, sure, GIMP is good, but Photoshop is the industry standard.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's like, I feel like I figured I'd ask before we read these.
No, these reasons are amazing, though. I love it. So, reason number 10, Linux users want to be seen as high society, out of the mainstream, and unique.
Wow, that's a strong point to start on. That is, in some cases, I feel like that's not wrong, but
it's definitely not wrong for some people.
That's a major reason. Yeah. All right.
Linux users Linux users have a need to support their OS choice, especially when a new OS is released, to retain the nearly non-existent customer base or pull those still on the fence into trying Linux instead of a new Windows flavor. I don't know what a Windows flavor is, by the way. Windows doesn't have flavors. Windows has releases, but sure.
Yeah. Well, now not to go off topic, but did you hear that there's like they've like got like their Windows that's like there's like a new Windows 10 that's like the last Windows 10.
Mm-hmm.
I heard that and I was like, well, I'm not really, or not the last Windows 10, the last Windows, and I was like, you know what, makes sense. Might as well make Windows a rolling release at this point. There's like,
it basically
no
is.
point. Yeah, like you're getting there's new updates all the time. System breaks, pretty much a rolling release.
Well, they don't charge for Windows either at this point. Like, you can run it and it doesn't care. It's just like, buy a key, and you don't ever have to buy a key.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that. I think they still charge corporate customers though. That's the only people they actually charge for money.
Yeah.
Everyone else, they just harvest all your data.
For sure. Also, like the big thing is that like also making it free like avoids like the whole like issue of Chrome OS like taking over like schools. Like if they make it free, at least then the chances of like schools like actually, because like if you want to keep something around, you got to get kids in. You got to get the kids. Because like when you get like kids into it,
here.
Yeah, I was like, I'm sure someone could chop this up into like, I could get like totally character assassinated after. I'm just kidding. But that's like, it's true though. Like if you get kids that rely on it, and then when they become adults and they're working at some place, you give them like, I don't know, you give them some program that they haven't used before. Like even if that program that they've used before that sucked, like they're just like, I know it. Don't make me use something new if I don't have to.
Microsoft Word certification courses.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you have to like learn something new, it's a hassle. That's where hate it. Like people don't want to give it a try, and it makes sense. People don't have to use it, so if you don't have to learn something new and you don't care enough, why do it?
Yeah. But the advantage Chrome OS does have is really cheap devices.
Oh yeah, and it runs Gen 2, so you know you're higher.
Oh
Higher
yeah,
level of
that's true.
society, obviously. As stated here.
Here's where they get fun. Linux isn't very entertaining. You need to do something when bored of entering command strings.
Like fair enough.
Yeah, sure. Typing the terminal isn't a fun experience, I guess. Is Windows fun? I didn't ever consider Windows fun. I sort of just use it as a tool.
I like the idea of like when you're bored, like you just like it's not like why Linux uses. So it's like imagine if you're just bored and you're just
lost
like
all that sentence.
God, oh my goodness. I was saying like I like how it's like 10 reasons Linux users hate Windows, not why they say they hate Windows.
Mhm.
So instead of being bored and like telling your friend that you hate Windows, instead you're just bored and you're just sitting around like, oh, can't stand that Windows. Oh, it just really gets me.
Entering command strings is so boring.
Yeah.
It makes them think that others listen to them for advice on an OS choice.
That is pretty true.
Yeah, I'll give you that
That's
one.
a reason that I use it. But like it's funny because it's like when people ask me about this sort of thing, I'm like, I don't know. I could tell you to use this thing that oh, it cut out for a sec.
So it does show it on your end when it happens then.
Yeah. That's why I'm like, I'll like stop all of a sudden. I'll just be like,
Maybe it's a thing about like you joining my call or something. I might try that next time where I have the other person start the call. Because I record my voice locally, so it might not be a problem then.
I think the reason for it is because of the like my like when you have I've had this happen before where it's like if your gain on this is like too low, then like it doesn't think you're talking loud enough to like it's like basically treating it like a noise gate almost. And then if it doesn't think you've started talking, because you can like lower how long the time is before it starts like picking up your voice, like a noise gate. So I think that's usually what the cause is.
Maybe.
Which is one of the negatives of using Discord.
Let's see. Number 6. It's Linux. They should have a parrot logo for the amount of repetitive, outdated reasons they have for using Linux that don't apply to modern OSs. Linux would be quickly forgotten without the parrots. Except the entire server space is dominated by Linux. That's sort of a...
Ooh. That's an outdated...
Yeah, it's very outdated.
That's almost more relevant now than it's...
Because as we know, everyone uses Windows servers.
Yeah, exactly. Well, really everybody's using AWS.
And macOS can't even be used as a server because you have to run it on Apple hardware. Yeah,
it's like, I don't know. Like there are places that use Windows on server, but like I feel like it's just so like especially like I don't know. I feel like a lot of people that are doing that are like around the time stacks were like barely popular, and now like a lamp stack is like pretty dated. I think at least like that's at least what I've heard. I'm no expert.
I'm not sure what the cool new stack is right now.
Yeah, it's no stack. Pure no server or whatever.
No, God, that's a topic we can talk about. Fucking no server, cloud. Do everything in the cloud. Don't even worry about anything that exists. Servers are not real, guys. We don't need them.
Yeah, exactly. It's no need to follow this sort of stuff. Just leave it all to like either an admin or to just run it through the browser and just hope that there's no limitations that you'll eventually run into when your website's just slow as heck. Not to bring up that like constant statement of how bloated like everyone loves to talk about how like JavaScript's slow and stuff like that. It's like, oh, let's get over this.
We want to talk about syntax. JavaScript's a good one to talk about.
Yeah. Oh god, that's like that's one of the I was saying before. People get hung up on syntax being weird and stuff. Dude, I feel like JavaScript did do some pretty questionable choices. Like equals should not be equals. Equals is just like that's a pretty easy one to pick out. But
there's some just weird arithmetic stuff that happens. Like if you do, I think it's a list plus an object equals 1 or something weird like that.
There's just like so many. There's a lot of weird like I think it makes it's funny because it's like sometimes I'll think to myself like this makes sense in theory because I don't know if you've ever seen like those like charts of like what goes together to create what result and stuff like that for JavaScript. And it's like honestly some of it seems so unintuitive, but at least eventually you start to see a pattern. But like at that point it's like, do I really want to count on everybody that ever looks at my code knowing this entire like diagram of how this works? Probably not.
There are parts of it that make perfect sense. Like I think if you do a number plus an empty string, it turns it into a string. That makes sense. I get that.
Yeah, and like the same. So I think it's like a lot of stuff that's like an empty something is like equal to 0.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
or not.
my favorite one is if you do nan equals nan. They're not the same thing.
Yeah, because it treats them as like two like separate not an objects or like not a not, but like yeah exactly.
So you have to do like is nan to see if it's actually a if the number is actually nan.
Yeah, it's like a SQL sort of thing too, isn't it? You have to do that with SQL.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now we're
back.
At
least this crossover.
We are now back to 0.7. So we went 767.
Oh, what the heck?
So Mum said that 386
maybe it's a Windows.
Sorry,
go ahead. I was gonna say maybe it's a Windows versioning joke.
Maybe I don't know. Mum said their 386 is fine. Just because all the other kids have better PCs, it doesn't mean they have to jump off the bridge too. Now eat your potatoes. I don't know what this point even is. What? Is it the joke that everyone on Linux likes to run like ThinkPads?
Oh, maybe. That would kind of make sense, I guess.
This was
Speaking of outdated statements.
Well, this was 12 years ago as well. So the ThinkPads that people run now were new hardware back then.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty fair. That's weird.
When you have... now we're back to 0.6 again. When you have no social life and no skills beyond penguin commands, you need a little something to make you feel mainstream and included again. Penguin commands.
Dude, that's fair enough. I don't have it. Social skills are overrated.
Yeah.
I use it. Feel superior. So, yeah.
Penguin commands.
That's why I talk into a camera.
I'm actually a lot more social. I'm a lot more social with a camera in front of me. I don't know what it is. Maybe I just like being the center of attention.
Yeah, fair enough.
But in person, I don't. Like, leave me alone.
I like have so much like, yeah. I always have to like redo. I'm like so bad at talking in front of a camera. That's why I feel like a lot of my like, especially so robotic.
Mm-hmm. Well, you
also
might notice
like, if
that
I don't,
my like 10 or so minute videos, if you look at the clock in the top right hand corner, it goes a lot further than the length of the video. Usually it takes me about an hour to record a 12-minute video.
Oh yeah, I spend like forever on my videos. I'll like bit like so many times for like no reason almost. I'll be like, oh man, I was so close. I'll like accidentally mispronounce like one thing and I'll be like, gotta do it again. And then some things I'll leave in as a mispronunciation. Like, you know what? Whoever it triggers, they can deal with it. I've spent enough time.
I'll leave
on this. I just gotta do it.
Like if I bump my mic or something, or there were times I'll like knock something over, I'll just leave it in the video just because I think it's funny. But if it's something like just complete break a sentence, then I'll cut that. There's only so many times that can be left in, and it doesn't make a absolutely horrible video.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like especially like some things you'll like notice you're saying it, and you'll just like can't back out. This is going into the final cut.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. My outro, I don't care. Outro's a first take every time.
Yeah, fair enough. I love the like that I love that you do like the thing. Yeah, I was just like, very, very YouTube.
Gotta love my spirit fingers. I don't know what started that. I did something to do for my outro, and that's just what happened. It's
like somewhat cringe, but it's like it's an enjoyable amount of cringe.
Not
like in a bad way.
I could just go like full YouTube, like, hey guys, remember to like and subscribe. That probably clipped. Maybe? Yeah. I don't know. If that clipped, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's okay.
But yeah. Hey guys, remember to like and subscribe and buy all my merch and subscribe to my Patreon and give me money on my OnlyFans or whatever else other things I have.
You gotta do like the what's up?
What's up, guys?
Hold on. You gotta turn your contrast, or not your contrast, your saturation at max. All that sort of stuff. Yellow, big words, big face, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, do the like the 4 a.m. I called someone at 4 a.m. channels. Why is it always 4 a.m.?
Yeah. I called Linus Torvalds at 4 a.m. You won't believe what happened. He didn't answer.
No,
It was a real shame.
he's an old man. He goes to sleep early. That's a great idea for a channel. If someone wants to do that, just start parodying the 4 a.m. channels.
Honestly, I feel like the idea of a full parody channel would just be like I guess a parody channel exists.
Maybe not just parodying 4 a.m. channels, just parody all of like the dumb YouTuber like cringe stuff. Like I can't think of one that does that. I think like there's parody stuff for like individual people, but I can't think of one where it's just like parodying the like general trends that are going on YouTube.
Yeah. No, for sure. I feel like those sort of things, I guess it's kind of hard for like YouTube. Like, I feel like you're just counting on somebody watching other content to even get your content.
Mm-hmm.
But like there's some things, like some parodies are just like very, very relatable. All right.
Yeah, anyway, the thing we're back to. What are we up to? Some people actually think being a geek is a good thing. They need to think they are in an elite club that only geeks would join and others are mere noobs, spelt with zeros. For context, this was posted in 2009, where putting zeros in things wasn't really weird.
Yeah, it's like super...
also, being a nerd it wasn't cool to be a nerd back in 2009 either.
Yeah. Is it cool now?
I guess so.
I don't know if I get clout from being a nerd.
I think it's sort of that like playing games and doing things like that. It's just like very normal now. Like when I was growing up, still like there was still a lot of people who just didn't play games. Now I feel like every kid who's gonna like is just be like, oh yeah, I played Fortnite when I was younger. Like I don't know if like that's sort of just very, very normal now. Maybe too much so, because I feel like there's going to be a lot of people who just don't bother with sports as they grow up.
Yeah, honestly, this might be like a controversial statement, but I feel like what World of Warcraft was like back when is like pretty much what people treat Fortnite like now. Like people just get so into Fortnite, but I feel like time dedication time.
Right.
I mean, not how people treat it, because I feel like people treat the idea of being into World of Warcraft as super dorky. Actually, people still do now.
Yeah,
I feel like it's still pretty dorky.
Oh yeah, if you play WoW,
I
you're still
played World of Warcraft for a reference. Not anymore, but I did. Before somebody attacks that statement.
But like even people who are really sporty, like they'll probably play FIFA or something like that.
Yeah. Oh my god, is FIFA really big in Australia? My friends from like the UK are like super into it. And I have no idea how, like, you know, fair enough, you enjoy what you like, but like some of them are just so into it, and I'm like, fair enough, man. Do you guys like soccer's pretty neat too? Like playing a sports game is like neat. I'm just like surprised that people can be so into it. Like I can't imagine being like stoked for the next Madden release. Like, oh man, you would not believe how sick it's gonna be.
You mean you wouldn't be super stoked for the next Sprint Canoe release?
Dude, that'll never exist. I guess like some Canadians get kind of stoked on like the new NHL release, but like honestly, I don't really know anybody.
Wait, I didn't even know that was a thing.
You didn't know? No? You've never played a hockey game?
No.
A hockey game's like a thing outside of Canada. Actually, I've never really thought.
I didn't know that was.
Like, I'm sure they.
Wait, what?
I'm sure they exist, but I'm like, now that I'm saying that, I'm like, wait a second. Why would people play? Why would people buy this? Probably not. I guess there's Aussie rules games, right?
Yeah, I don't know if they are still being made. AFL
Fair enough.
Game. The last one was in 2017.
Oh, okay.
So yeah.
So not.
Oh wait, no, there was one last year. Wait, what? Wait, what? I'm sorry. How did I not know this existed? What is it called?
I know, like
AFL Evolution 2. Oh my god, look at this face. I'm gonna send you this. Just pause it on just right at the start and just look at this face.
Oh my god. What is that?
I don't know.
Like, you know, respect to them for not just like replacing it and and not just like faking it. At least they used actually. Man, that was probably not a good call.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
I think most people here would much rather just go outside and play some footy rather than playing a video game. But FIFA's big for some reason.
Yeah, that's what I don't get. Like at least with NHL, it like makes sense in my head because like hockey's huge in Canada. Obviously, I feel like everyone kind of knows that. But like at least like in Canada, like it's summer eventually, so like you can't play it. But I feel like you could play soccer year round pretty much.
Yeah,
like there's no reason you can't play it. Like I feel like a lot of people that are really into NHL are like into it in the summer because like they just don't do anything in the summer besides like there are people that play like hockey in the summer and like indoor rinks and stuff. But it's like I feel like those are like more of like the more dedicated people. Sorry to anybody in Canada that disagrees with that opinion because there are just people that are like, dude, everyone is super into hockey. But I'm pretty trash at it. So
one thing I'm sad there's not more of is V8 supercar racing games. So there's there's 3 big sports in Australia. We have cricket. No one besides India cares about cricket. So usually like the big games are India versus Australia, and that's all you get because that's the only teams that exist. There's a couple other little ones here and there, but those are the most of what exists. Then we also have AFL because every country needs its own football league, and
for some reason,
I don't know why. And we have V8 supercar racing, which is basically take NASCAR and make it less shit. They drive around like a track that isn't an oval. They have to like make turns and stuff.
Oh, so it's like an F1 mix with
it's F1 with basically done up street cars, like really done up.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, well that's like pretty much like every racing video game.
Yeah, it would basically just be a Gran Turismo game with a different skin. But I still want it.
That sounds sick.
Let's see.
I forgot what number we're on.
We're on number 4 now. Now that security and viruses are not a horrific issue with Windows, they need to wave their penguin flippers a bit more often in order to not be forgotten. 2008 was before the big this big stuff with what's the word I'm thinking of? The one where they make you pay to get your data back.
Oh, like WannaCry? Is that what it is?
Yeah. What's that type of virus called?
I don't know.
I don't remember. Anyway, this was before a lot of those big viruses came out, and it was what would have been the main version of Windows at that point? Windows 7? I'm pretty sure Windows 7 still has some pretty bad virus issues. I
feel like honestly, like viruses were not really that great until like Windows. Well, I can't really say Windows 8 because honestly, I feel like Windows 8 wasn't around long enough to really have. But Windows 10 is like I feel like not to give Windows credit because we gotta hate Windows.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I feel like Windows 10 is like pretty good for bugs. Like I mean, not bugs, for viruses. Like it's not too bad.
Well, having built-in virus detection is a good thing. It should have been there years ago.
Yeah, I honestly I was like, this is just stupid that they never put this in. Well, I think they built it into the Windows 7 at one point, right? But it just was shit. I mean, bad. Or yeah, I guess it's fine to say shit.
Maybe towards the end of its life. It wasn't there at the start, I'm pretty sure.
I could easily be wrong on that.
Yeah, I could be as well.
I'm like, I've got kind of like this. I wonder what they consider horrific issues. Like they're like, it's not a horrific issue because I log in. I can at least use the internet. Like, what are they considering a horrific issue?
Like, have you never looked at your parents' computer that has 10 different bars in their browser? Like, what are you talking about? Not a horrific issue.
Or like somebody goes like, "Hey, could you look at my computer? Like, it's going really slow." And you like hit a key, and it just takes like 4 seconds to go in, and you're like, I don't know if this is there's something wrong here, and I'm having a feeling it's because you have like your entire search history is Pirates Bay. Which like, you know what? Not going to comment on piracy, but like, please, people
look, if you're going
to do what they want,
stuff,
but don't be an idiot.
Please audit what you're downloading. If it says .exe, don't download it.
Yeah, don't search don't search free video game and then just like download it and then immediately like hit execute. Like it's just like it's not gonna. And then when it asks for admin privileges, maybe don't. Just don't do that part. Probably not a good call.
Probably a good plan. Let's see. We're at 3 now. Their secret world has been taken over by those who have the income and resources to buy higher-end hardware, so Windows runs well for most people now. What?
Ooh. I don't know if I'd really argue that though. Like I feel like because they're trying to say like people that use Linux are like broke as heck.
I guess so. And the people
but I
on
feel
well,
like
they had established earlier that everyone on Linux also runs a 386.
Yeah. Well, I feel like their argument is like, oh, but Windows run like their argument is that like people on Linux, but like Windows runs so slow compared to.
You have to buy high-end hardware to make Windows not run like shit. So what if we ran Linux on it then?
Yeah, like I feel like even if also like you can buy expensive hardware and it's still gonna not run great. Like I had a Surface Pro when I first switched, and like no matter what you try, like Windows still uses like over 1.5 GB of like memory as soon as you open anything.
I actually do like the Surface. That's a cool device.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet. It's not. I don't recommend it if you are gonna run Linux and you want a Surface-like device. Don't buy a Surface because you need to run a custom. And when you've never used Linux before, it's a mess to understand because obviously you don't know anything. No offense, like to whoever's watching this. But it is honestly a sweet device. I just wish that Linux was like better supported on it.
Yeah.
But it is pretty sweet, honestly. I know a lot of people are like also like that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So point 2. Linux no longer has an edge on Windows in most cases of speed and stability. They can't be forgotten. But your last point, you just established that to make Windows not run like shit, you need to buy high-end hardware.
Yeah. Where the heck is this guy that wrote this article? I want to talk to him.
Well,
I know he's probably...
His name is Oz Media, and he has an Australian flag, so I'm guessing somewhere in Australia. I'll find him.
Yeah, you should add him on Twitter. Get him on the podcast. That'd be kind of hilarious, honestly.
Let me talk to you about this blog post you made 12 years ago.
Yeah. I know you probably don't remember making this blog post, but I need to get in contact with you. This is priority number 1. Wait, are there 5 pages of this?
The roster comments.
Okay. I was like, holy, what is going on?
And the number 1 reason Linux users hate Windows, Linux conventions are the only place they could possibly justify wearing a tuxedo, or more commonly, a tuxedo shirt. What?
Does anyone go to Linux conventions? Like at all?
I only know people who go there because they were invited there.
Like I think the only like most people that go to Linux conventions are like enterprise related stuff. Like I feel like I think like there are like really cool ones. Like I think actually Australia, it's like their Linux conference. I don't know if you know the one.
The only one I can think of is like I can't even think of that many tech conferences here.
I think there is one called like Linux Conf AU South.
Oh yeah, I know the one you're talking about. Yeah,
that one's actually like pretty sweet. I've watched like a lot of they've released from.
I haven't seen anything about it. I think that's in usually I think it's in Sydney.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm not.
I also don't know much about Australia's layout.
Lots of desert, lots of death.
Fair enough.
Linux Conf AU. Well, last year it would have been online.
Yeah. If you ever want to sit down and watch long presentations, those ones are pretty good. I feel like there's like some that are pretty. Just be like, whoever wants to come and talk, come on, go on stage. We'll give you a mic.
I actually got invited to talk at VimConf last year, but I didn't end up doing it.
I was like, that's kind of sweet. I remember I watched that episode of because then you mentioned that with what's his name, Kai Hendries.
Yeah,
and Kai Hendries was like, why didn't I get invited? I was like, I don't know why you'd expect to be invited, man. You don't make videos on Vim very much.
I don't know why I got invited. I just make videos on Vim plugins like every couple of weeks.
I feel like there's like a limit on how many people they can like find to like pull up.
Yeah.
Like that being said, the most recent one that was on, I think that was the most recent one, was actually pretty sweet. Like pretty interesting, interesting talks.
Yeah.
But yeah. There's the whole list.
Yeah, that's the whole list. Let's see. Wait,
convinced.
did I close it? I think I closed it. Bring it back open. I think the first comment is someone going through all of the points and just making really bad points about all of the points. Oh, you can scroll down.
Yeah.
I'm
looking at it. I was like, oh my god.
So Linux users want to be seen as high society. Oh no, don't go there. Oh, okay. There's people in. Okay, this is how old this point is, or this post is. There are people talking about people running Vista and XP still.
Oh yeah. Oh man, this might be a bit more dated than
yeah, a little bit. Oh, I love this. Now this first comment's kind of agreeing with it.
Not everyone is a noob.
Not everyone's
there
a
are
noob.
lots of friggin' jerks out there. Fair enough. Honestly, I feel like most people that run Linux like pretty seriously can admit that they're a bit of a dork, even if it's like endearingly. Like I'm not like I feel like I think of it as like not in like one of the it's cool to be nerdy thing, but I feel like it's like a thing where it's like, you know what, I just enjoy this one thing, and it's just hopefully not something that is really that big of a deal.
Well, most of the people I've met through doing stuff like this have been pretty chill people. Like I've met a couple of like I think the Linux users are jerks thing is very much overblown. Like there are some very loud, very annoying people, but the vast majority of people are pretty chill.
Yeah, like there's like I chat in your Discord like a bunch, and like there's lots of like there's some people that are like exactly what you described, but I feel like that's just like a loud minority, like you said.
Yeah, we've
especially
had
like a lot of
we've had our fair share of interesting characters come through that Discord for sure.
Yeah, but it, you know, it is what it is. It's in every community. The chances of having like something like that be in your community is just higher and higher. Like the more, like, because I feel like people like that, like they don't want a big community because then they don't have anybody that'll listen to what they're talking about.
Yeah, one of the original guys who was sort of making the Discord active. One of his things was like when I was trying to get rid of him, I never actually banned him. He can come back whenever he wants. It'd be funny. I kind of want him to because he'll get bullied now. If he's listening, he knows exactly who he is. But at the time, he was like, "Oh, if I leave, then nobody will be talking here. I am the reason why this community is alive." And when he left, like that's sort of when people started talking.
Yeah. No, I feel like also like I feel like it's like those sort of people are like the only reason that they're the only ones talking. like it's not like also like the community could be really small, but I feel like if it's just like if I opened up a chat and I just saw like someone shit posting the whole time, I just feel like I don't want to deal with this.
Well, yeah, if you see someone just making like Terry Davis quotes talking about the CIA people, I'm not gonna say it. Just look up Terry Davis CIA and you'll find exactly what I'm talking about. If that's the first thing
I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Anyone listening, just look up Terry Davis. And he's the Temple OS guy for anyone who just has no idea. And he's got some interesting quotes out there, that's for sure.
Yeah. I feel like that's just like not okay. I don't know. I feel like it's like this sort of thing, especially like I don't know. I feel like some things like I feel like, you know what, censorship is not great in the idea of it's just like people should be allowed to say what they want without going to jail. But like saying what you want that in that sort of a way and like something that's not yours, it's like, well, maybe think a bit.
Well, my normal thing is just keep it out of the general chat.
Yeah.
Like don't make it the first thing people see when they open up the fucking server of all things.
Yeah, dude. There's nothing worse than like opening something like that up when you're like, I don't know, like studying with a friend and you're like, oh man, I'm so sorry. You're like, you don't want to acknowledge it and draw attention to it just in case they didn't see it, but you're like, they probably saw that. And it's like, sometimes it's like you open it up and you're like, man, you're like really nervous that your friend's like thinking like, oh man, this guy's into hate speech or something. Because you're like, man, why did this guy have to say this right when I opened it up? Or just like, or like post pictures that are like, yikes. Yikesy. Those are always a bit of a scare. But luckily, due to so many things being done at home, at least there's less people seeing that.
Oh yeah, how has that experience been for you? Because my last year of uni was entirely at home.
Oh, dude, I'm so done with it. Like at this point, I just like, I like, it's like nice. It's funny because it's like I have like one class that has like 2 so we, and like usually actually I am pretty sick of it because it's just really time consuming. But it's also like honestly, at least it's a group project, so at least I get to like interact with people I'm taking courses with. Because like for the most part now, it's like I don't actually get to talk to anybody. I just like will chat with them on Discord.
Yeah,
it's like, or like chat like over text and stuff. So it's just like honestly, it's just like I kind of miss seeing people, but at the same time, like it's kind of nice for some courses at least.
Yeah, at least for my state, we've been pretty much opened up for a couple of months now. Basically no restrictions. I think there's like I think some events have like a 500 person limit or something like that, but and sporting events are still very restricted, but besides that, like general life stuff, like no masks, nothing like that. You can just basically go live your life as you always do, which has been certainly nice.
In the part of Canada I'm in, we've been in like pretty big restrictions because like our like governing bodies decided to wait like a bit too long to like increase restriction because they had like full quarantine for a bit, pretty much dropped everything. For the most part, there was still like obviously some restrictions, but like there was no mask policy or anything.
Yeah.
And then our cases like went through the roof, and then we ended up having like the highest cases. For those of you in Canada, I'm in Alberta. Don't at me. So we're pretty not great, at least in our province's eyes. Anyways, but the big thing is that like now because of that, it's like we're just max quarantine.
Yeah.
Well, we are like a bit better. I think now you can have groups of 10 outside, but like like now it's like, oh man, now I've gone like I had to go all through quarantine and stuff like that because of it. It's like, man, especially when you like get your break from university, you're like, man, I just want to hang out with friends. I don't want to be stuck in my room that I've been in all year.
Yeah. Well, with us, we never really like, even back at the start, we never actually had mask restrictions. I think we had like 3 days in my state a couple of months back because there was this was sort of like a big media thing where someone had lied about how they caught COVID. So they went to like a pizza shop and they said they like got it from the actual food there, and that would have been like a different strain or something, because that would have been like one that you can pass from like object to person. I don't know, something like that. And that would have been like a much bigger deal. Turns out the person actually worked there and got it like any regular person.
God.
But there was like a 3-day like hard lockdown for that. But besides that, because Australia is naturally so big and there's just so few people here, it's very easy to be away from people.
Yeah, I feel like some parts of Canada, it's kind of like that. I feel like that, like, because like Alberta, the part that I'm from, is like, there's pretty much only 2 cities that are like mildly big, and then everything else is like small town.
Yeah.
And so because of that, like you get like, this small town people that like just don't believe in things because it hasn't happened to them. So like I feel like a lot of the small towns are like COVID doesn't exist and we're like anti-maskers, which is like honestly just so like it's one of those things where you're like, man, I'm just disappointed.
Well, I sort of get it in some of those places because in a lot of the small towns they didn't have any cases there.
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of the sort of thing where it's like, and then they were just like, oh, there was just like a big like anti-mask statement and stuff like that, which is why we ended up going way too long without like any regulations that we should have. But yeah, so it's like the sort of thing where it's like, oh man, we probably should have more restrictions, but I'm also like in one of the bigger cities, so it's so it's like we when we started rising in cases, we rose very quick compared to like a small town. But yeah.
I'm not even sure when the last time we even had a case here was. I think it was like a couple of weeks ago at this point. And
that's crazy.
All of the cases we end up having are from hotel quarantine. Because I don't know if you guys been doing it there, but hotel quarantine's been an absolute mess here.
Is that like when you guys have like a special hotel for everybody that's coming into the
Yeah.
My sister's like in New Zealand and she was saying that. So that makes sense.
So
I guess
what happened
for those that don't know?
The last big scare they had in Victoria, because they're useless. It's so poorly managed. So they're not actually getting the staff working in the hotels to stay in the hotel. So they're working with the people who've come from somewhere else and may have COVID, and they're just going out in the community.
Yeah.
And there was
that's like sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say the reason why there was a big scare last time was because one of the security guards was also an Uber driver.
Oh dear.
So he caught COVID
That's
from
like a pretty
someone
easy
working.
way to spread it.
Yeah, he caught COVID from someone in the hotel, and then just went and did his Uber work.
Drove people around. Oh my goodness. Yeah, a lot of people that have gotten, like a lot of the places that have been getting it, especially old folks homes, which is like literally the worst it could spread to. And it's because like a lot of the people that work at old folks homes are like just underpaid people that like nurses basically that like need to work multiple jobs, and they have to work at so many of those places. And it's just like when you're working with people with compromised immune systems, you're probably going to catch whatever they got, which is like, that's been like a pretty bad thing here, but it's a lot better now.
Yeah.
But if you got a lighter note on that list, that'd probably be good.
Let's see, what else do we have on here? I do have a fun one. What do you have something?
Mine's not Linux related, so if you
mine's not
like
either.
Just something like, okay, all right, I'll give you mine. Mine's probably gonna be pretty quick, unless yours is quick. But I was thinking of this the other day, and for some reason I was like, I bring it up on the podcast. What do you think things would be like if worms were picky? Like, do you think compost wouldn't exist? It was one of those shower thoughts. I was like, what if the worms that you had in your compost were picky? Like, would you just never be able to compost your food? I figured this would be quick because I didn't think there'd be too much to say about picky worms.
Okay.
Ideal for a short clip on one of the videos.
I don't know what to even say about that. It depends on what they what food they eat. Like if they're,
that's what I was thinking.
Maybe they have adapted to like eating kitchen scraps. In that case, you'd probably be fine. Because
it's like, imagine like.
I was saying that worms have a very short lifespan, so they sort of, go through their chain of evolution much quicker than a lot of other creatures do. So maybe they would adapt quickly.
Yeah, like I was like thinking about that. I was like, what if maybe they were like, oh, I don't like it when my food touches or something like that. Like, what if like you had to like separate compost? You'd have no idea. You just have like, my compost isn't working. You just have worms in there. You'd need to find non-picky worms. I feel like there could be. I don't know where I was going with this.
Maybe there would be people who specifically want picky worms because there'd be some benefit of just having one type of food being eaten by the worms.
All right, we could change the topic. I feel like that was I just like thought of this, and I was, you know what? Yeah. Maybe somebody will have maybe somebody will get some enjoyment out of this statement.
Sure. I don't. Something that might have a bit more meat to it. Have you been paying attention to Elon's Twitter, specifically relating to his crypto market manipulation?
Yes, and I love it.
It's
like I don't have much money in crypto, but like I have like a bunch of Brave rewards and like and that sort of stuff. And like because of that, just like the value of those has just gone up, and I've spent money on it, which is sick.
I love that the part that I love about this is that people think that like Elon is on the people's side. He is playing all of you. He knows how valuable his Twitter is, and he knows that he can shoot up Bitcoin like 50% in value just by saying the word Bitcoin.
Yeah, quick cut to that like that was it David Khaled one where it's like, congratulations, you've played yourself.
I think David Khaled.
Is that what it is? Or DJ Khaled.
David Khaled. Oh. Mental overflow and David Khaled.
I like to think of myself as being bad with names because I like to think it excuses me being incompetent at remembering names.
But I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he's doing this. He'll put like, I don't know, $1 million in Bitcoin, say something on Twitter, and whoop. Or the other day, he he said he was talking, I think, to Peter Schiff. He's a big gold guy, and
Yeah.
he mentioned in a tweet that Bitcoin and Ethereum are overvalued, and they dropped 30% in value.
Holy, really?
Yeah.
I did not know that. That makes actually a lot of sense because I was looking at values literally today,
Mhm.
and I was like, "Oh man, there's a big drop," and now it all makes sense.
Yep.
Uh,
And that he
Man, that's
wanted to
like-
buy into the market. That's all that happened.
man, that's like who? Case. Apologies in advance when I say the wrong name, but like James McAfee, like the guy who like originally started McAfee.
You might not be far off.
You know,
with
like
that
the
one.
ad.
I don't know.
You
his
know the
first
ad
name either.
blocking software.
Sorry.
You know the ad blocking software, McAfee.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like that guy, I look him up online because he's like he's a very interesting, like, because he's flipping weird.
Mhm.
But
You're
anyways,
close.
like
It was
all of
John
his-
McAfee.
John McAfee. All right, close enough. It's the thought that counts. But anyways, he like gets like I don't think it's like official, but he gets like a ton of money from like new cryptocurrencies coming out.
Mhm.
And then like people pay him to say like, oh, this cryptocurrency is going to be worth this insane amount in 1 year or something like that. He said he made some crazy quote like Bitcoin was going to be worth, which honestly, at least Bitcoin honestly could reach that amount. I can't really remember what he said, but it was some ridiculous amount to like boost up the value of it. But he would do that for like new cryptocurrencies, and then like the value of them would go up, and then all the creators of the cryptocurrency would just sell all of it that they had and just make like big bank, and then he would make money off of it too.
Yeah.
And people like kept doing it. Like I think people still listen to his opinions on these things and like still buy these, which is just like insane. That he's just that's a good example of exactly what Elon could be doing it, but like to an extreme extent where it's just like pump and dump schemes. But
Well,
with
I don't.
cryptocurrency.
Elon's a weird character. McAfee, he's just a McAfee's someone I can see is like very much trying to manipulate people for money. Elon might just be very socially inept because he is kind of socially inept. But it is still Elon. He was one of the original angel investors in PayPal, so we know that he knows what he's doing when it comes to investing.
I feel like also he like I feel like his Twitter, I feel like he's just like one of those people that just like loves on like the world.
Mhm.
Like obviously he wouldn't like sacrifice his money for it or something like that. But like I feel like he's the kind of guy to play around.
Well, yeah. He did
which,
make
like,
a
honestly sick.
flamethrower because he wanted to.
Which is sick. Isn't that or wait, and then he also owns like the Boring Company. That's not the flamethrower one. That's like a drilling thing, right? Maybe?
I think the flamethrower was released under the Boring Company.
Okay. But yeah, I don't know too much about it, which is kind of sick, honestly.
But Elon has sort of gotten in trouble in the past. Like that's the reason why he's not on. Is he not on the board of directors for Tesla anymore? Or I know he got one of his positions stripped from him because he was back when he was manipulating the price of the Tesla stock. When he said Tesla shares are worth too much, or Tesla shares are overvalued, or something like that.
Oh my god.
And
yeah, I could understand why they would be like, dude, please don't.
Yeah,
that's like that's terrible. That's when you're like when you're just getting pulled away from your own company.
But in that case,
which is hilarious.
Like he actually was in a position where he could be doing some level of insider trading. But when it comes to like Bitcoin or Doge or any of the other coins he's talking about now, he has like from what we know, he's not involved in the back end for that. All he is just like a dude who has a lot of influence.
Yeah, honestly, to be that influential, power, he's got money, he's got power, he's got trolling, he's got everything he needs.
Let's make Dogecoin as valuable as possible for the lols.
Yeah, to the moon.
To the moon,
as they say. Which is honestly hilarious.
Yeah, I still don't have any money in Doge. I should have put some money in there. That would be funny, but
like that whole thing with GameStonk is like gonna be like they're gonna teach that in schools probably, like, which is hilarious. Okay. Like that is like so funny to think that a meme is gonna be taught in like probably universities. They're gonna be like, this one thing happened this one time. Let's not talk about it.
The Dogecoin went up again. He apparently tweeted about it again. But apparently he might be investigated for shit posting about Doge. Oh, it shot up and then it came straight back down.
Straight up, like, there's got to be like bots out there that just like invest in whatever he says. Somehow, I'm sure they exist.
Oh, wouldn't be
Or at least
surprised.
people that work at Twitter have a way to do it. Just joking.
If
No,
you look
maybe
at Dogecoin on Google, the people also ask, will Dogecoin ever hit $1? And will Dogecoin ever reach $100? Will Dogecoin make me rich?
How much is Dogecoin worth right now?
5 cents.
Oh, okay. So that's not as much as I thought it was. I thought it had gone up to like 50 cents by now.
I
Which
think
funny,
the
I was going
peak
to say
was
like
8 or so.
50 cents Canadian, but I think I was going to say 50 cents Canadian, then I was like, oh, I guess it's like pretty much the same exchange rate. It's pretty much.
Yeah, I don't know Canadian exchange rate. All I know is my dollar's worthless.
No, ours is just as worthless. I think we're worth like pretty much the same amount.
Let's find out.
I know this because I remember I looked at getting jobs like a co-op in Australia. That was, I guess, a while ago. But I think our value might even be less right now.
1 Canadian dollar is worth one Australian dollar and 1 cent, so slightly more.
What up? Shout out to all my Canadians watching this, knowing that our money's 1 cent more. Crazy. I'm just joking. That's not a very big achievement. I don't think
Slightly more valuable than
Australia is like
the shit currency we have.
Yeah, the Canadian dollar is like very inconsistent. Some years it'll be doing like well, you know what, it hasn't done very recently. I was gonna say some years it'll be doing pretty good, and I feel like just like there was one time American dollar, and like people just were like so into it. Everybody was like Canadian dollar worth so much, but like I don't think that's happened. I think that literally lasted like a few days, and people just stuck with it.
The one good thing about COVID is that the Australian dollar completely tanked, and that means that when I got paid from Patreon, I got way more money.
That's sick. Actually, yeah, honestly, getting foreign money is like pretty sweet when you live in, I don't know, countries that have shit currency. Which is honestly pretty sweet. But sadly, remote work is like, honestly, that's the nice thing about software. You've said before that you do like stacking boxes right now, right?
Yeah.
Do you have plans to go into software stuff?
I don't know at this point. I'm deciding after this.
Not to get long-term life. Not to get long-term life on you.
What will I do? What will you be doing in 5 years?
Where do you see yourself in 15 years working for you?
I have no idea. Like, whenever anyone asks one of those questions, it's like, I don't know. I'm just gonna I'll wing it basically. Right now, I'm enjoying what I'm doing. I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. If it so happens that this isn't gonna go anywhere, I'll decide at that point. But for now, I'm gonna keep doing what I do.
Yeah, fair enough. I feel like this is like a pretty sweet setup anyways.
Yeah.
At least like at this rate, like I don't know how many student loans you got, but like at least you're like making money back and you're also working at the same time. So that's like pretty win-win.
How do student loans work in Canada? Because they're actually really nice here.
It depends on your province. So my province is pretty reasonable about it. Because like up until recently, Alberta had like a lot. But you know, oil isn't worth very much right now. So now it's not really that great, but I think it's probably the same thing now. I'm hoping. But yeah, it's pretty much like you get. I don't know. I think it works pretty similar to other countries where it's just basically like you get a certain amount of money every year. It's for your student loans. You request the amount that you need, but it's like there's a limit to how much you can get anyways. That's pretty much how it works. Like some provinces, you can't get it if like your family is a certain amount of wealth or something like that. But I don't think that's a thing in Alberta at all. But it sucks for those poor people whose parents have a lot of money but refuse to pay for university.
Well,
I know a few people that have that.
It's actually it's really, really good here. And I don't know, there's people in Australia that like to complain about like how our loan system works. They think we're in America. There's a lot of people like that actually, where they'll bring American problems to Australia and they don't translate at all. So our loan system is a federal system, so all the states use the exact same one.
Nice.
I think there's like a cap at like 200,000 or something, but unless you do like like if you do like a medical and like a aeronautical engineering, that's really the only way to get to actually like get to the limit.
Yeah, I was like, that's a lot of money. How expensive are universities?
My degree I think was like 35,000.
Okay.
But you go to like medical degrees and they can get way more expensive. I think some of them are upwards of like 90,000 or so.
I believe it. Especially, well, you have to do like I think it's the same everywhere. You have to do an undergrad
Mm.
med school,
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like it just piles on.
I actually don't. It might not be 200,000. I'm gonna see if there's a limit. I know there was talks about adding a limit. Oh, it is $106,319. What? Sure.
Huh.
Okay. I don't know why that random number. But that's for most students. For people doing medical, dentistry, veterinary science, aviation courses, it's 152,000. But that's because you have to do your PhD and stuff. Which is, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Too expensive still, but it makes sense. And the way it works here is you actually don't have to pay it back a cent until you make more than $46,000 a year. So
okay, it's kind of it's not quite the same. I think we have like a time limit on how.
Yeah.
But you do get a bit of a break.
Right.
I think. I don't know. I'm kind of nervous for when I stop and then I find out that I'm wrong.
Yeah. So here, if you never make more than the threshold, you never have to pay back a cent.
Oh, dude, that's sick.
It also does mean there's a lot of people who never pay back their degrees, but the way it works here is it goes up like similar to like a tax bracket, except there's a lot more brackets. So if it's between $46,620 and $53,826, I don't know what the hell's up with these random numbers. You pay back 1% of what you make that year. So if you make $46,000, you pay back $4,600 that year. And then it just gradually goes up and up. The highest tier is after you're making $136,740, you pay back 10% of your salary that year. So $13,600, whatever it works out to be.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I feel like it like sounds like bad in the fact that like a lot of people wouldn't pay it back. But I was thinking about this before pretty recently. I was thinking about like stuff like, because people always talk about stuff like arts degrees and how it's like people will be like, it's a waste of money. Like what, like it's just a waste of tax money and stuff like that for like some places where it's like paid for and stuff like that. And like you shouldn't just go to university in arts if you don't like need to or something like that. But I was thinking about it, it's like people still like arts are still important. Like there's not a lot of people that like think about like movies. Everybody watches movies. And a lot of people that go to university for that sort of stuff, like arts are still an important thing. There's
definitely people it makes sense for sure. But when it's, I guess it's more of a US thing, but because people here, at least the people I grew up with, if you don't have any idea what you want to do, you just, I don't know, go be a dropkick and do something. Or you get like, I don't know. Like, or if you don't want to be a dropkick and do nothing, you'll go get a decent job and get an apprenticeship and do something like electrician work or plumbing or anything like that. Like that's a really good career path. But I guess it's more of an American thing where just everyone sort of just goes to college. I don't know what it's like in Canada, but
it's well.
I hear about
it kind of varies.
I hear about Americans just going to college and not knowing what they want to do, and that doesn't make any sense to me.
I think like the recruiting is pretty different, like between like all the countries, and I think like in America is like way bigger. And I feel like a lot of people especially because university is so expensive in the US. And like the trade-off is that like there's a lot of like, because people are spending so much money, like parties and stuff like that are like way bigger. Like I feel like parties at every university are pretty big, but I feel like because people are spending so much money, there's chances that somebody is flipping loaded. That's probably throwing some crazy stuff. And like I feel like that's why like a lot of people go to college. I think it's just more of a push. In Canada, like at least in my province, like a lot of people go to like SAIT, which is like a trade school.
Yeah.
And I'm sure, I think that's what you're talking about when you're saying like going.
We have a system called TAFE, which is basically the same thing, but you could also just through TAFE you can do apprenticeships and stuff like that, and actually get yourself a decent job. But people also do things like they'll have programming classes there as well, so you could go that route instead of going to university to do programming. I don't know how good it is, but
like here we also have like colleges, which I guess are like not
that completely cut out. I didn't hear any of that.
I noticed that. I was like, oh, you can't hear me. All right. What I was gonna say is like we have colleges too, which are like I don't know if they're the same for you guys, but like colleges, not quite a university. There we go. I got it. Not quite a university, but they like have like kind of like what they would call a community college in the US.
Right.
And I think those are like pretty common because it's like they pretty much offer most of the same courses. People that want to go into like becoming a policeman or something like that would go into it, because it's not really a trade, but like you don't
Right,
need to pay
okay.
for expensive university that it doesn't matter what university you go to. They're all going to teach you the same thing.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Not that programming's really too different. There's no matter. I feel like a lot of universities you go to, they're going to
They're just
either
going to
teach
give
you
you
the
free
same
resources. I unironically had a class that was like, hey, your coursework is go through these Linda videos.
Dude, honestly,
I'm paying how much money to be here?
yeah. I used to be like, honestly, like it's like, yeah, I'm paying money for this, man. Come on. At least that being said, I would prefer that a prof does that than like just be a terrible lecturer and like, well, especially now that things are online, if they just refuse to record and they're really hard to follow in lecture, I'd way rather they just gave me videos that is going to be the content I have to. Because at least I'm paying and getting my degree rather than paying to like do shitty. I mean, do shitty in a class. I keep trying to correct myself when I start to swear.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah. I've lost where we were at. What were we talking about?
We were talking about student loans.
Oh,
before that.
right, yeah.
We were talking about what, like, is it the same in Canada as it is in America?
Right. Yeah, and then we went on to the push to just go to college but not knowing what you're going to be doing.
Which, like, I think it's still here, but not quite as bad.
Well, we don't. I guess we sort of have college here, but usually if you're doing college, you're doing it as an entry to get into university when you just, didn't finish high school, or you didn't finish high school with high enough grades.
Yeah, that's pretty common here too. A lot of like the colleges offer like high school upgrading classes, which like a lot of my buddies have like done that sort of stuff before, because like I don't know, a lot of the guys that I'm like really close friends with are like guys from like a sport.
Yeah,
where it's like stuff like, this is too much of a time commitment. I'll just not finish this.
Well, my school had a pretty serious bullying problem. Basically, the teachers didn't do anything about it. So, like, my sister ended up dropping out of high school in like grade 10. Shit. So that would have been when she was 15. Yeah, 15 or 16. But then she decided that she wanted to go do some science stuff at university. I think she's going into biology. And she decided that she was going to go back and do adult schooling and actually finish that off. And she's starting university in a week or so, actually.
That's pretty sweet. That's like always good to hear. Like I know like there's also like some people, like at least like some of my friends, that get like so hung up on like upgrading, which is kind of funny because like I don't know if it's the same for you guys, but like if you're just going into like a lot of like normal programs, like your grades don't matter that much. If you have like okay grades, like they're not like, well, I think honestly, if you have grades, if you passed and stuff like that, like a lot of times you can go into a lot of like majors and it doesn't really matter. So upgrading isn't really going to do you any favors. You're just going to spend more time and not really get any return on investment.
Yeah.
Like especially when it comes to like once you graduate, like if employers care about GPA, they're not going to care about high school GPA. That's just my thought.
The way we do it here is it's not a GPA system per se for high school. It's called, what's it called? ATAR, Australian Tertiary something rating. I don't know what the A stands for in there. But it's a scale. It's like, I think it's a number from like 50 to 100. I don't know why it's 50 to 100. Don't question it. But that basically it's like an entrance rating to get into university. And every degree has some sort of rating. It has like a minimum entry and then a guaranteed entry. So guaranteed entry obviously is what that is. But sometimes they won't get enough people to actually apply for the course to run it. So then they'll take people from the lower ATARs. So I think mine had a 76 guaranteed entry, which was if you got like all B's in high school, you'd be fine. Or in your final year, I think was what mattered.
Yeah, we don't have like at least the university. Which funny enough, when you were saying like Victoria, which like I guess I know that there's a Victoria in Australia, which is obviously not a city, but in Calgary, in Canada, it's a city.
Oh, yeah.
And that's where like I went to school. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, we don't have like the guaranteed entry, which is like honestly, like when you say that, I'm like, we should just have that.
Well, yeah, if you get honestly, if you get perfect grades, why can't I have a guaranteed entry into an arts class? Like, surely.
Yeah, that's like I originally was gonna go to university, but he's kind of got like one of those like those like elitist people because like, I was applying for engineering, and like
Mhm.
there's some people in like engineering that are like super like treated as like if it's like some sort of a status symbol to
Right.
be taking engineering. And so like I was asking a guy about it, and I was like, "Hey man, like what sort of grades should I have to get in? Like I feel like I have pretty good grades, but like like I was like I had a pretty trash grade in social because like who cares about social? Or what
Mm.
do you? I don't know if you guys call it social there, but
Social.
uh,
What is that? What?
it's like a combination of like history and an English course, but you also have an English course. There's probably another word for the English portion.
Like the
It's like a
closest thing would.
politicalish. I don't know.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
It's like political science. It's like a political science history
I
thing
think the
combined.
closest thing we'd have would be society and culture.
Okay. So then, yeah, I guess that would be what the thing would be. But I had pretty, like, I didn't have like a terrible grade, but I was like, it's not really that great. And he was like, oh, dude, if you need to have like over 90. And I was like, oh, well, I'm probably not going to have over 90 and everything. I spend like literally 3 months of my high school year. Like I had like good grades. I had like 90s and 80s in most of my stuff. Not to flex on you high schoolers. But I was the man back in high school. I'm joking. I was just a tryhard in grade 12. But anyways, but I was like, I'm probably not gonna have perfect grades because I literally spent 3 months of my year in Florida and do training. And then afterwards, I talked to friends that went to school there, and he was like, "Oh yeah, I got in with like a 70," and I was like, "God damn it!" That wasn't even like the like like the grade that you're supposed to have to get in. And I was like, I did not need a 90 to get. God damn it.
Well, I think I got like. I think I got 5 A's in year 12 or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah.
But I went to a disadvantaged school. So my school was in a kind of a poorer area, and to like encourage people like that to try to like upskill
Go to
themselves and not just basically live off of welfare their entire life. They're given bonus marks or bonus points for their ATAR to get into university. Because
That's sick.
you're disadvantaged. So I, being someone who isn't an idiot, decided, okay, this means I can put 0 effort into year 12. So I picked the easiest subjects I could imagine. We had like woodworking. I made a hockey table or air hockey table. What was that? I had workplace practices, which is basically just going over like occupational health and safety stuff. And if you're like, hey, don't leave buckets of water in an aisle when you're filling shelves, that sort of stuff. Like how to lift a box. Basically just like the most basic stuff you can imagine. I had to do a maths class, so I picked the easiest maths class. Even though up until that point I'd been in the top one. So this one you had, I think you had to, there was like a, what's that graph that had, it's like a box plot, that's it, box plot. That weird like
a stats thing.
Yeah. There was like some basic stat stuff, drawing box plots and things like that. Very easy class. My programming class, I knew more than the teacher because he was teaching the class chapter by chapter. So he was learning as he was going, which is not a good way to teach a class. That was very easy as well. The reason why I wanted my 5 A's, even though I didn't need them, is because my school also had a bunch of like leftover MacBook Pros, and they're like, oh, if you get 5 A's in year 12, have a MacBook Pro, because no one got 5 A's because it was a shit school. Originally they had it on 1A, and that was too easy. But by the time I got there, it was 5 A's. The problem they had, though, is I think my cohort was probably the best performing cohort that school's ever had. So I think half of the year 12s got MacBook Pros.
That's kind of sick. That's sick.
That's how I got that 2012 MacBook Pro. I didn't pay for it.
That's pretty awesome. Oh, well, actually, something that confused me. So how do your guys's, I don't know if it works the same way with you guys. You pretty much have to do, like, I guess you do have to take math, but like when you guys do maths, are there like different kinds of maths you can take in high school? Like we basically had like -1, -2, -3, and then like some schools had -4, which is like using a ruler and stuff like that. But it's like they're all like based on the same thing, just with less content. Except I think -3 is like barely any of the stuff that you would normally learn.
Mm-hmm.
Like the same thing with you guys, or
Up until grade 11 and 12, they don't give them proper names. It's just like, here's the dumb people maths class, here's the normal people maths class, here's the exceptional maths class. But in year 12, they have maths apps. That's maths applications. That's the one I did because I didn't want to try. Then they had, I think they got rid of like the normal one in year 12. After that, I think you had maths studies, and then there was some one even above that, and that was going into things like calculus and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so you guys, okay, that's interesting.
But up until grade 11, basically the teachers just picked what class you were going into. They looked at your grades like, okay, well, you can do this class. Go into this one.
Yeah, I guess like that's like the same sort of. We had like, well, not really the same sort of thing, but we had the way we did it is, yeah, we had like, I don't know if they're called the same thing for you guys, but you have like IP. Of course. What I was gonna say was like we had like the normal structure, like I was saying, like 1, 2, 3 for like how hard it was. And then we had like AP and IB, which I feel like you guys had too, like the same sort of like international bachelors, like stuff like meant for like, I don't know, going to school in like some other like university or something like that. And you get like credit for it.
Too fancy for us.
Yeah, I was like, you probably didn't. I was like, if you're a disadvantaged school, I feel like you didn't have like AP program. But anyway, so what I was gonna say was like we had all that sort of stuff, and then you'd also do like calculus after you did that sort of stuff. Which, funny enough, when you said like either your computer science like teacher was like explaining it, like learning it as they went, that was literally my calculus teacher, and it was
that would be hell.
I had the class. So then we had one calculus class because my school is like, I went to private school. Big flex. I went to the opposite of a disadvantaged school. I went to a privileged school. But anyways, not a flex. More embarrassing than a flex. But anyways, what I was gonna say was that so because of that, our school was really small, and our class size was 30 kids, which like they usually don't get that many people doing it. So like the class size was 30 kids, but they had 4 desks.
Right.
Like one of those wider desks, like kind of like a beer, like not a beer pong table, fold out table, or whatever you want to call it.
Like kind of like this. I can definitely tell you're still in university right now.
I was like saying it, and I was like, there's probably a better way to describe this. Anyways, what I was gonna say was that yeah, we had like 4 of those, and we had 30 kids between all of them, so it was like super packed. And no joke, it was so bad that like by like the 3rd week, we had like no joke, like probably 15 people in the class. We dropped our class size by half because it was just so terrible.
Yeah, my school was because in my state they have this thing called super schools, where basically they take a bunch of different schools and merge them together. So my high school wasn't actually a high school; it was I don't know what you call the do you guys have a thing you do before you like your first year of primary school?
Like kindergarten is what we call it.
Okay, because
if I think of the right thing. What do you call primary? What's primary school again?
That's from when you're like 5 to 12 or something.
Yeah. So you have I guess like I think kindergarten you're like 5, preschool, which is
Okay, so we have kindergarten, and then you have, I think some states call it preschool, some call it reception. But basically it was from that to year 12 in one school.
That was the same thing with mine, actually.
Okay.
It's kind of funny.
But this school, they'd also shut down some other nearby schools, so this school was way overpacked. Every single class had at least 30 students in it. That was on the low end.
Oh my god. That's that's like the normal like public schools would be like that, but never that ridiculous.
We had a fancy private school name, but we were very much a public school. Mark Oliphant College.
That does sound pretty bougie. You can put Mark. That's kind of sick that that's like got college in its name. I'd be like, oh man, if you're a college and a high school in Canada, you're usually like the bougie private school.
It initially I don't know, maybe there's someone from South Australia watching this. It used to be Smithfield High, which has the notorious rap. It basically as bad as like Playford High, which also changed their name to Playford International College because that school had a bad reputation for for people getting stabbed and things like that, which, just normal public school things.
Yeah, luckily, like most schools in like I don't know. I feel like the meme of like or the joke of like Canadians being nice is like a bit overstated. But honestly, like for the most part, like I feel like especially when you're in like there are places in Canada that are like not super great. Like no offense to anybody in Manitoba. Manitoba's kind of like not great. But for the most part, like it's very like there aren't really that many bad places in Canada. Like Vancouver, I guess, is like a big city, so it's bound to have it. But
yeah. Now, my area I grew up in is not the best area. There was a Coke dealer on my street. Lots of fun. He liked to do deals outside of my house at 3 a.m.
I live in like a downtown sort of area, so there's like lots of like that sort of stuff. But it's like, all right.
I have lots of fun stories from my high school. Like in the disabled toilets in one of the buildings, there was a list of people who fucked.
Nice.
The list wasn't even, so clearly someone had been with someone else in that list multiple times or something. There were multiple occasions where people were caught smoking weed like behind the school gym. People giving blowjob behind the school gym, things like that. Lots of fun public school stuff.
Yeah, I guess like some of that is like still here. Well, I guess smoking weed is like legal in Canada. I don't know if you know that.
It is. Isn't it?
Yeah, another flex of
we
Canadians.
We have medical in like I think Victoria. I think Victoria has medical, but everywhere else, nope.
Yeah, we had medical for a bit, and then just like now it's legal, which is like I guess pretty sweet. Like I don't know everybody's thoughts on.
I will neither confirm nor deny my consumption of illegal substances. Wink.
Yeah, I feel like saying anything. I guess it's illegal in Australia. I don't know why I was.
The way it works here is if you're caught with it, then it's a problem. But there are some people who take that too literally, and if they do get caught with it, they just smoke all of it like straight away.
Yeah, in like Canada, there's like certain parts
if you don't have any.
There's certain parts of Canada that's like there's like a doctor that works at a pot store, right. And so you go into the pot store, you tell the doctor you have a headache or something, and then bam. Prescription. Like that's not all of Canada, but now like since it's legal, yeah, you do you.
I wouldn't be surprised if it goes recreational here at some point.
Yeah, I feel like at this rate, it's going to be available. Like
usually, Australia like follows American trends like a couple of years later.
Yeah, like at least in like, especially in like the U.S., I feel like it'll take a while. I feel like so many states will just make it illegal if.
I don't know. But then there's other states like California where it's like. They're discussing making psilocybin legal.
Yeah, or like there's states where it's just like completely legal, which is sick, I guess. But yeah, anyways, that's I just find that like I find the idea of like just being like I'm gonna add more rules city than my country provides. I guess like in Canada they still do that. Like they have different drinking ages in different parts of Canada. Like Alberta, the part that I live in, has a drinking age of 18. Which I think just makes sense. Should be that way because I feel like by the time that you're an adult, you should be allowed to drink. That's just my opinion. But a lot of like most other provinces have it at 19, which like I don't know, kind of silly. You go to university and you're like, all right, well I guess I can't drink anymore.
Well, America's even weirder, 21.
Yeah, like what the heck? You can go to war. You can drive a car.
There's no one who leaves college who doesn't drink. That's not a thing. Like everyone who goes to college drinks. I think
the one thing though that's like not that I'm not condoning it or anything, but I think one thing that is good about it still being illegal when you're 19. Because when I went to university, I went to a province, so it was 19 there. And the nice thing about it is that when it's illegal, like house parties, not to bring up partying in a tech podcast, I feel like that's kind of fun. But like the parties are just like really sweet because like no one can go to a bar. So like everybody's just like, I guess we just have to host something like all the time.
That's fair.
Which at least like in my opinion, like I think that's pretty sweet. I think that's the big thing in America. That's why they keep it at 21. They don't actually think it should be 21. I'm sure some people do, but I think really secretly the universities are keeping it at 21. So that way they can keep getting people to go to college. It's all a mind game. It all adds up. Keep getting kids to go to college so they can party.
Well, here the legal drinking age in Australia is 18. The community drinking age is whatever sort of happens. Like, I think my first drink was at like 12 or so.
That's great. I guess like there's like places, I guess like in like, especially it's like pretty common to do, what's it called? To just like have like if your parents okay with it, you can have a glass of wine. Which, like, to be fair, I feel like most kids are not like stoked on having wine. But
My first drink was a vodka cruiser, which is a much nicer first drink.
Very bougie. I'm just joking.
Yeah, they're the drink that all of the like white girls at parties drink here.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, my parents'
Very nice.
logic was, it's better for me to have a drink at home than go somewhere and drink.
That's pretty fair. Yeah, my parent, like, I feel like, especially when I drank underage, or if I did drink underage, not to out myself. When like I feel like a lot of it was just like it's better that we know you're drinking than you trying to hide it and like doing something like stupid, like driving home drunk.
Mhm.
Like, you're better off, like obviously when you're like, I guess you said that like the longest drinking age would be like 14 that you're allowed to like drink or something like that. But I feel like at the same time, it's like when you are, well, how early can you drive in Australia? Or in your part
You
of
can
Australia?
get so we have it's different per state. My state, you can get your learner's permit at 16.
Oh.
But you need, like, when you have your learner's permit, you have to have a supervisor with you. So that can be anyone who's had their full license, I think, for at least 3 years.
Similar to ours.
Then you're in your learners for a year. I think you have to get like 100 hours of driving experience or something during that time. Then you have a test. Then you're on your P1s. You have to be on that for a year. Then you're on your P2s. Then you're on that for a year. And then you get your full license. I'm getting my fulls in like a couple of weeks.
Wait, what? That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Okay, the way that it works for us, because ours is way more chill.
Also, until you have your full license, you have a 0 blood alcohol limit. So if you've had a single drink, you can't drive.
I guess like here because we do have a full license, and that's the same where it's like when you can get your full license after like 2 years of driving, and then you can have a higher blood alcohol limit.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty much the only new thing. But you could get your learners in my province at 14.
Oh wow.
And then you can get your drivers at 16. And then there's basically no difference besides you have a high blood alcohol content, but that kind of just makes sense because you can't drink at 16 here. So
yeah.
there's not really much point. And then
it used to be you could get your drivers at 18, but now they've added the extra year of P2s, so you can only get it at 19 now.
Yeah. Yeah. So like, I don't know. I still don't have my full license. Oh, I caught it that time. I still don't have my full license because oh my goodness, it keeps cutting out. But yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get my learner's permit till I was 20 because I don't know, I was lazy.
Okay.
Wait, how old am I now? Wait, maybe it was 19 when I got my learner's permit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm 23 soon. Yeah.
Fair enough. I'm like it's funny because like I feel like I should, the fact that because I'm old, I'm a year older, and I was like, oh man, the fact that I'm still in school, terrible.
Well, that's what you get for switching degrees then.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, man, this held me back so much. I'm only like a year old, but yeah.
Well, this is as good a time as any because it's been 3 hours. Perfect. I think we should sign off the podcast at some point.
I agree. I was like, I don't know how long you go for these.
I go until we run out of topics, and we're not running out of topics. So, I don't want to do more than 3 hours. I'm good. I want to have some lunch at some point.
Yeah, sounds good, man.
Okay, so usually at the end of the podcast, I give someone a shout out. What channel? Any channels you've been watching out there you think deserve some attention?
Oh man, I don't know his actual full name, Will, but Will from the Discord.
Oh yeah, Will.
He made a channel.
Taylor?
Shout him out. Yes, I think that's his name.
There's 1,000 people named Will Taylor. That's not very.
Oh god. All right, let me just a sec.
Oh no, he sent it to me in a PM, I think, as well. Yes.
Oh god, yeah, that's a hard one to search.
Oh, Will T, sorry. That's a really, fix that, please. Yeah, he's done 2 videos recently on NixOS. Because he likes to shill NixOS a lot. Oh no, he's also done some other stuff
Yeah.
before that as well, but years ago.
Yeah, I think his Nick stuff is like the most recent content. They're actually like pretty good. I recommend them if you're interested.
hmm
If you're not interested in Nick's, could check them out anyways.
Yeah, you
Maybe
might be
you will
interested in Nick's afterwards, maybe.
Yeah, for sure. Alright.
Okay. As for me, I'm gonna. What's something I've been watching? Oh, here's a fun one. There is a channel called Just a Pancake.
Just a
Just a Pancake does Kingdom Hearts weird parody sort of videos. He's I think one of his bigger videos was Kingdom Hearts in a nutshell. Basically, he just goes through all of the Kingdom Hearts games, breaking down how dumb the story is, how everyone is basically a Xehanort, and it doesn't make any sense. And there's time travel, and the game is nonsense. But yeah, I don't know if you've played Kingdom Hearts before, but if you pay attention to the story, it's just dumb.
Yeah, I like kind of have watched like some summary. Seems pretty all over the place.
Yeah,
Friendship.
it is. Yes, it's just nonsense, basically. Yeah. Cool.
Alright.
Where can people find you?
You guys can check me out on YouTube if you're watching this on YouTube. Gavin Freeborn. That's my name on YouTube. I make videos about a bunch of stuff. Some of it crosses over with Brody's. I make a bunch of stuff on Trough and such. And if you guys are on Library, you can find at Gavin Freeborn as well.
Cool.
All right.
I'll leave links to all that stuff down below as well.
Sick.
Okay. So before we go, I would like to thank my supporters. Where is my list? Where is it? I should have brought it up before. Okay. And it's gone. Look, damn it. There it is. Okay. So, thank you guys to the words. Thank you to the supporters: Chris, Joachim, Donald, Michael, Andrew, Nathan, Dave, Monster, Will, Brennan, Chicabento, Jamie Joseph, Mitch Peter, Stephen, Tony Tushar, and all of the $2 supporters. If you'd like to go support my stuff, there'll be links to that in the description. Just scroll through it, you'll find it eventually. This podcast, if you're listening to the audio version, the video version is on YouTube and Odyssey. And for the video watchers, video viewers, whatever you want to call yourselves, the audio version, if you know how to search for Tech of a Tea on a podcast platform, you'll be able to find it. It's basically everywhere, and if it's not there, shoot me an email or something. I'll make sure it gets on that platform somehow. I don't know. I'll work it out. Yeah. Cool. That should be basically everything. I will give you the final word.
What do you guys think worms would feel like if they were picky? Let us know in the comments.
Sure. Okay.
All right. That's all I got.